Yeah, okay, so everything seems to be perfectly technically fine. So good morning to everybody here and in person, our partnership and online, our guest. I'm very happy that we have such a large audience today. We are going to present our project FEDeRATED today, and I would say we have many keywords really interesting, which are, first of all, obviously data and mobility in the freight sector. But I would say in the background, we are talking about value and benefit. Moreover, those may be the keywords for today. I will not take much time for this introduction part. As mentioned, the event is organized in person and online. We try to do our best to have an interactive session today morning. While you have a presentation, we invite you to use slido.com. We were presenting in the chat, you will find the code to enter in order to post your question, in order to have all the questions posted there in a unique place. So please don't use the chat of Zoom, but Slido only. Otherwise, we will try in any case to transfer, move your question. I underline this point about question because it's for us really important to show what we are doing in the project and which way we're supposed to create a value for the community. And therefore, we like to have interaction with you, posting the question, debating, asking for a better explanation of what's going to be presented, and in case express your interest on what we are going to present. So that is for us really important because we are not purely disseminated project, but is an action, we call it a consultation among the partners and consultation with other stakeholders. So that is the aim today for our event. We're going to have a first speech from the Directorate of Mobility and Transport, introducing the environment, the ecosystem we're dealing with. Then we will move to the general presentation of our project from our boss, our coordinator, and a little bit about Semantic, which is really important element on the mainstream of our project. And then we will work on the field of our activity. We call it demo or labs, where we show what we are developing, what we did up to now, and what will be the next steps up to the end of the project. So let's go first to the presentation. I mean, for a greeting from Matteo Codagnotto, who is the hosting partner for today, and then we'll move to the presentation. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. It is an honor and a pleasure to have you all here today. We would have liked to host more people, but the actual restrictions did not make it possible. We are here today in Codagnotto, a global logistics operator with a strong focus on operations in Europe. We operate multimodal transport within Europe with a sustainable and digital approach. We are proud of being part of FEDeRATED project and this consortium, and we are sure we can bring our know-how and practical experience to the whole team. My colleague Alessandro later on will explain how we are deploying FEDeRATED Living Labs into our daily operations. And Guido and Alessia will support you today in all this event. I wish you all a nice and profitable day, and looking forward to exchange and share ideas today.
Thank you very much, Matteo. I wanted to recommend everybody to use the mask, and I was the first one not to. So apologize for my incoherence. It's typical for, we in the field of economics. So first of all, I will move then for the first presentation. I ask, I think is online, Simon Osilowski from the DG Mobility and Transport, that I suppose he's going to have the first presentation. Simon, are you online?
Yes, I'm online.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. I will try to put up my presentation on the screen. Right?
Okay.
Okay. Here it is.
Okay, perfect. You can start your presentation. Thank you.
Okay, so you can see it, right? Okay.
Yes, it's fine.
Okay, good. So basically, the aim of my presentation today is to show you a bit the policy context, which is important for the federated partners, federated project, because this gives let's say, an idea about the policy frameworks which are now being developed at the level of the European Commission and the level of the European Union in general. I will start with the sustainable and smart mobility strategy, because this is the document adopted last year in December. And this document guides all our actions in DG Move, including specific policy initiatives aimed to support the digital transformation of freight transport and logistics. The strategy has three main pillars. So this is the sustainability, of course, the contribution to the Green Deal and the European climate law, with, of course, the very ambitious target of 90% of reduction of greenhouse gas emissions by 2050 compared to 1990 levels. The digital transformation, very important component, because this is regarded as an enabler for optimizing the entire transport system and resilience, the lessons, of course, learned from the COVID-19 pandemic to prevent any future disruptions of the supply chains and transport system in general. The strategy is organized around 10 flagship areas with key milestones, and contains very detailed action plan with a list of concrete policy actions. And this is quite important, and I would like to draw your particular attention to flagship number 7, innovation, data, artificial intelligence for smarter mobility. This actually flagship gives us the right to support actions related to digital transformation of freight transport logistics. And when we are zooming in flagship 7, we have 10 specific actions, 2 of them being of particular relevance. This is action 49. Develop a common European mobility data space, and action 54, propose rules on a trusted environment for corridor data exchange to support collaborative logistics. Actually, both of them are quite correlated. The first one is more horizontal, because this will cover all these sectors, you know, of the transport and mobility, including passenger specific modal initiatives. The second action is more specific. It's aimed to develop harmonized framework for seamless data exchanged for freight transport logistics. And actually, we are very lucky to have good support, good expertise from the Digital Transport Logistics Forum. In the sense, action 54 would contribute to the development of action 49. I will start perhaps with the common European mobility data space. Perhaps a couple of words about the context. The context is the overall European strategy for data, which is being now developed at the strategic level, at the horizontal level of the EU. And this is about the establishment of a single market for data, including you know, the establishment of the common European data spaces. What is this idea about? So this is about to ensure interoperable data sharing within the EU sectors and also between the sectors, and also to make more data available for businesses and citizens to create for better innovation, for new business models. Actually, you know, we consider that it's the increase of data volume will create a lot of opportunities to develop the EU economy. Actually, I noted a couple of statistics that global level, the increase of data volume from, there is an increase of data volume from 33 zettabytes in 2018 to 175 zettabytes forecasted in 2025. So it's really, really huge. Huge increase, and of course we all want to benefit from this increase for the good of the society, and of course for improving the efficiency of the European economy. At the same time, we need to ensure that the European rules and values are fully respected. In that sense, we have, for example, this famous GDPR framework, and also we need to ensure that all rules for access and use of data are fair, practical, and clear. For example, the data owners should keep control of their data, and also we have to prevent, the abusing the market power by some companies which have dominant market position. So this is the general framework, and now it is being implemented through a set of specific regulation or legislative acts, and two of them are of particular relevance for the European data spaces. This is the Data Governance Act, which was adopted in November 2020, and upcoming Data Act, which is planned to be adopted at the beginning of 2022. As regards Data Governance Act, it has three aims, basically. First of all, to boost data sharing across the economic sectors of the European Union. Secondly, to empower users to stay in control of their data. And of course, encourage the creation of common European data space in key economic sectors. The data governance regulations foresee four types of measures or four sets of measures. First of all, mechanism to facilitate the reuse of certain public sector data. For example, in health sector, it's quite important, especially in the during the pandemic. Secondly, measures to ensure that data intermediaries will function as trustworthy organizers of data sharing and pooling. And this is mostly about labeling or certification for neutral data brokers. Then measures to make it easier for citizens and businesses to make their data available for the benefits of the society. This is so-called data altruism. And measures to facilitate data sharing. And then we have the technical enablers as generic standards for data sharing and interoperability. On top of that, the Data Governance Act foresees the creation of the European Data Innovation Board, which would serve as a kind of governance body for the deployment of the European data space. So this is the common framework for the European data space, and it will consist of a number of sectorial data spaces in key economic sectors, including for mobility and transport. Additional provisions will be delivered in the Data Act, but as I said, Data Act will be specifically launched or adopted by the Commission at the beginning of the next year. So perhaps we will skip this slide, and I will just give you an update what's happening as regards the establishment of the common European mobility data space. So it's still in the conceptual process. There is an internal reflection being conducted at the level of DG Move. But the basic, let's say, idea is to cover all possible data exchange systems and databases which are relevant for mobility and transport. And we are really need to pool all this information in one single framework, but at the same time, we need to ensure we make use of the common building blocks to be delivered for this horizontal framework of the common European data spaces, because otherwise we will not be able to be interoperable with the other data spaces which will be, let's say, established for the other economic sectors. Okay, important information. Digital Europe program, a completely new funding program, has been launched by the Union to support the digital transformation of the European economy, including the support for deployment of the European data space. So this, the first European Digital Europe Work Program was adopted on the 10th of November, and the first call for proposals were published on the 17th of November. It's important to understand the first call includes a preparatory action on a common European mobility data space with a budget of 1 million euro. And the deadline for applications is 22nd February. So all, let's say, organizations which would be interested to participate in the call may of course may have a look at this as the work program and the call text, and can also participate in a workshop which will be organized on the 2nd of December, and you know, the organizers are DG Move and DG Connect together as the leaders. And of course, this workshop will provide you a lot of information about the context of the call, what can be funded, what we expect, and how we would like to support the development of the data space for mobility. It's also perhaps worth mentioning that there will be still additional actions to support the development of the data space for mobility, and these actions will be included in subsequent calls. For example, there will be a third call for proposals to be launched in the second part of 2022. But I think what is important perhaps for you to remember, there is a workshop on the 2nd of December, and we really encourage you to participate. Action, coming back to the strategy, there is an action on trusted environment for corridor data exchange to support collaborative logistics. And this action is very important because it would provide kind of framework for data sharing to optimize the supply chains for all supply chain stakeholders. As I said at the beginning, we rely very much on the support from the Digital Transport Logistics Forum. This is an expert group of the European Commission, and there is a particular contribution expected from one of the subgroups which was created under the DTLF, and the subgroup is on the corridor freight information systems. So this subgroup will specifically, or is specifically, working on a concept which will then contribute to action number 54. A second important topic which is being addressed by the DTLF is the implementation of the electronic freight transport information. I will also mention, tell something more about this topic a bit later. Now, the corridor freight information systems is based on the idea of the federated network of platforms to create a seamless environment for data sharing. So to create a kind of environment where everybody, all the organizations can connect and share data without any prior bilateral agreements to use all the services which are offered in this federated environment. There is a very nice video which we have prepared recently. I will not play it today. However, you can always click the link which is provided at the end of my presentation and check yourself. You know what is in the video. It's very nicely explained in the very easy way for everybody. In terms of the structure, this corridor freight information system subgroup is split into four main into four teams, each of them addressing a specific building block, which is developed for this federated network of platforms. So team 1 is addressing plug and play. This is about authentication, identification, and authorization to access this federated network of platforms and use the services which are offered by this environment. Team 2, technology independent services, is to produce some technology independent services which support data sharing between supply chain stakeholders, and the team 2 is also dealing with the data semantics, which is a very important element and also was mentioned at the beginning by Guido. Team 3, Federation of Platforms, is dealing with the digital architecture, and Team 4, Trusted, Safe, and Secure, is about the governance. So this is the overall framework and 4 building blocks, which then together fit into the overall concept of the federated network of platforms. What would be the outcome from the DTLF on this specific topic? So first of all, the DTLF is expected to provide technical specification as regards the registration, architecture, interoperability principles, common services, the governance. So that would be a set of the technical, let's say, specification recommendations. But at the same time, it will address the users. So it will provide implementation guidelines for individual organizations on how to plug and operate in the federated network of platforms. That would be a kind of practical book for all organizations which would like to really join this federated network. The time perspective for those deliverables is end of 2022, beginning of 2023. But it's also important to say that the interim report is being now prepared by the subgroup 2 of the DTLF and will be due in coming weeks, depending on the validation by the DTLF plenary. Another important aspect is that DTLF concepts are being, let's say, validated by 2 projects. Of course, you know the federated project, but it's also another one which is called Phoenix. And the projects are cooperating closely with DTLF. They provide a lot of technical contribution to the DTLF work. They validate the DTLF concept in the real work practice, especially through the number of use cases and living labs. Therefore, we are looking forward to the discussion today and the presentation of various pilots, under federated. It's also important for future onboarding of the DTLF solution by the stakeholders and also for the community building. So the overall, let's say, system is quite let's say, important to have close coordination between the DTLF, federated, and Phoenix. Finally, a couple of words about electronic freight transport information regulation, which was also supported by the DTLF. The preparation, at least, was supported by the DTLF. This is about the obligation for all competent authorities in the member states to accept information related to cargo, to the transporting of cargo, which is submitted in electronic form. And operators, of course, can, according to the regulation, they can choose whether they can submit information on paper to the authorities or in electronic form. If they choose electronic form, they would need to use certified FD platforms or service providers, because only then we would guarantee the harmonized application of FD regulation in the whole European Union. So this is about the harmonization of the reporting from the companies to authorities. But FT as such does not impose any additional obligation on the companies. So this is only about facilitation and creating a common framework for data exchange between the companies and public authorities. As regards the timeline, FT entered into force in August 2020. But it's still a lot of work to be done. There is a technical implementation needed, for example, to develop a specific FD data set. There should be national requirements prepared, common rules for authorities, specifications for platforms and service providers, and so on. So at the end of the day, we are planning to finish this technical work by August 2024. And to have a full application of FT regulation, meaning the start of obligation for member state to accept FT data by 2025. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Simon, for your presentation. I think the description about the concept of common data sharing and data space from the DG, from the Commission, is clear. I think it's really clear that we need to use this opportunity, the robust policy framework and also the funds to create a value, because the center point is the concept of data sharing to optimize supply chain. And what is really important, I think that when we are coupling DTLF and EFTAI, we are talking not purely on operations, we are talking about administration, we're talking about the entire ecosystem. This is really important for the benefit of the consumer at the end, the shippers, the customer of the mobility system of freight, the operators, but also the public administration related. So it's really important now that we are showing how we were dealing with our project to use those opportunities on the field by our partnership, starting from the presentation. And thank you, Simon, again for yours, from our coordinator, Roland Walker, that is going to introduce our project. I just repeat 1 second on the slide, Slido for the pool first, and then for questions you may have. At the meantime, just to confirm that we are going to present, to send a link for the entire presentations we are going to have today to the participant registered. So please link on this, and yeah. So the floor is yours, Roland.
Thank you very much, Guido. I guess you will show my presentation on the screen, and then I can further act on it. Great. Thank you for giving me the floor. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for participating in this event. Unfortunately, you were not able to come to this event. We are here in a room with 30 people already. So we are counting 30 plus 85. So we are reaching quite a substantial amount of people participating in this event, and it makes us very happy indeed. What I would like to go into is to show the federated way, because after more or less than 1.5 years of an epidemic, it starts to be a bit in disguise what we are actually after and what we are all about. And the question emerging, what actually is the thing federated wants to achieve, and what makes them tick. So I would like to be as concrete as possible, although it's a very abstract issue in a way. Now, I will do that based on the fact that what is the origin of our project, and where should that lead to, and how to further participate and enjoy also the company of all you in further engaging and getting the federated way as the European way. Now, how do we go? It's always in a digital. It's always in a digital conference that the people who are explaining how digitalization works doesn't know how to handle a PowerPoint, but that is more or less, that hasn't changed since the pandemic anyway. Okay,
So,
now we go too fast. Okay. I would like to start with the origin of the project. And the origin of the project is that we actually already started in 2011, when a couple of the people that are already partnering in the FEDeRATED project also came together, because they were representative of a public administration, and we were confronted by the decisions of our ministers that they want to establish a maritime single window. We never knew why they decided to do that, but we were confronted in making an implementation process in order to achieve the digitalization actually in the maritime domain, possibly in connection to other domains and other transport modes. We have worked there as 14 countries in developing a kind of single window approach, which has as basis how to go from paper into digitalization, how to get in an electronic way the messages across. And actually in this 4 or 5 years period, we experienced some lessons which actually are the lessons that we can take on board for every project we are doing. As we are dealing with digitalization, we're dealing with data. We're not dealing with a translation of a paper into a digital format. And that cannot be stressed sufficiently, because that is what some people do. They only say, hey, this is a document, how to put it into a digital format. That is not the issue. We're talking about data, which is a completely different way. Now, another way is if you come up with solutions, never forget history. We are always confronted with whatever we are going to do, that there's a legacy, that many companies and many public administrations already invested a hell of a lot of money in what they have been doing, and they are not very eager to burn that investment and get to a next level. You always should take into consideration that there is a legacy. Now, and it is something which is also very interesting in the connectivity between member states, businesses, and Brussels. Centralized solutions hardly work. That is not the essence of what Europe is all about, and that's probably not a sustainable way of dealing and getting together. So that also means that one size does not fit all. And what is very important, independent where you're dealing with the implementation of legislation, yes or no, there should always be a business case. If you're going to include people in developing a process, there should be some value in it. There should be a business case. So whatever you're doing, whatever you're trying to achieve, always take care that there's some worthwhile for every person to participate. Otherwise, you lose the tolerance and you lose the ability to make it work. Now, what is also very important, that if you're doing digitalization, don't trust the technicians. You always have to think about the fact that what you want to achieve on a policy level or on a business level always needs to be in coherence with what's technically possible. So we can always listen to the technical people. We are very wise, but we always should know what does it lead to, and keep on asking. But what is also very important in all this sense is that governance is essential. If you want to be successful, put down the roles, identify the places people perform, try to get some decision making and get some commitment and interaction being in place. Now, in developing a project like the one on the maritime single window, or future projects like this one, the FEDeRATED project, you always have a choice. Are we going to do it step by step, incremental, or are we going to put a revolutionary approach onto it? And sometimes you need to be bold. Sometimes you need to say, listen, despite legacy, despite all these technological people, despite the visions there are, sometimes you need a new approach. You only need to know when to put it there and that you take sufficient time. Now, in this project we once developed, actually, after a while, we were discussing about data modeling, standardization, and all these issues. And at the end of the project, we actually developed a kind of coherence of a transport data model in relation to the world customs data model, which was quite a revolution. And in the end of a project, one partner said, actually, we did it wrong. We shouldn't have done it based on the data model. We should have done it on a harmonized data interoperability. And actually, this is still also very much worthwhile and very important for a project as the FEDeRATED project. It's all starts with a common or harmonized language. We don't need all to speak Swedish to understand each other, but there should be a link in trying to understand each other. So there should be a kind of harmonized data interoperability. This is actually the lessons we have learned for the last century or the last 10 years. Now, getting back to the single window, although we're talking about the FEDeRATED, a lot of people that are going to be involved in a FEDeRATED way still have single window perspective by trying to develop a platform. Now you just should look, and if you're talking about data, you should go into another galaxy. So you have a ship, or you have a fleet, or you have whatever. You have a captain, and the captain has to transform and translate and provide data or information to the shore or to another person. So they have to translate the information into a kind of modeling, turn it into a code, and send the information, which is a sending, which is a push mechanism, and send it to another planet or to another platform or to another shore. There, the information is received, the message in a bottle is being collected, is being stored, is being identified, and is being provided to other people like the police or whatever you have as law enforcement agent. I'm now talking about the public administration. And if you do so, you are free to move in the galaxy. This is more or less the concept of the single window, which is very much behind in the thinking of a lot of people. Now, we are now living in a new paradigm. And the paradigm is we have to share. All should be shared, should be equalized, should be done together. Now, Simon already explained something about the European Commission policy and why we as Europe want to develop a kind of technology independency. What we are doing in the relationship of data transport is getting a seamless multimodal chain. We have to get seamless data interoperability for multimodal transport movements. That allows us to further develop supply chain visibility, develop new services, and actually what we want to get out of it is optimized assets management and infrastructure use. By sharing data, we can gain a lot. How to do it? How does it look like if we relate that now to a single window? If we're going to do sharing, actually, the question emerges, should we do sharing based on a push method? Should we send the messages in the bottle directly to the receiver? Or should we allow interoperability between the sender and the receiver, meaning the data holder and the data receiver or user? Actually, if you use that, you don't need to take some steps. You don't need to send it up. You don't need to specifically receive it or store it. Some people like to store it, but you get another paradigm. You get another perspective. And the perspective is that you have to start an interrelationship based on machine interoperability by not sending it, but making data available to the different stakeholders, to the different people. In order to do that, you need actually 4 requirements in order to go and to say, well, I'm sitting here next to Henk and he's very much into space. He will tell later about the data interoperability and the semantic modeling we have developed. But if you want to reach platform interoperability, you connect between different platforms. You need, apart from the ability to talk with one another, you need an index, you need a registry, you need an identity, and you need access. And these 5 things are actually the principles on what makes the FEDeRATED project tick. If you do it, you can not only travel to one platform only, but you can travel space and you have your final frontier before you. You boldly go wherever you want to go. Now, this is the FEDeRATED project, but I think I have to tell you more relating also what we have been doing lately. Anyway, we can exchange data between everybody if there is data interoperability. Now, if we go from vision and illustrations into the bolder wording as we are used to in our high school training, we are talking about what we're achieving and want to achieve is an infrastructure provision that contains of a set of arrangements and technical applications to enable data in existing IT platforms or systems from companies or public administrations to become available to authorized users through actually a pool method. So you make the data available. We call it also a publish and subscribe approach. This is actually the federated vision. It took us a year to further develop that, and it contains many, many things. Anyway, I think first we got back. We established a cooperation, we established a goal. We actually identified that we as a partnership of 15 partners, and here you see the coverage of Europe being identified by the participation of 15 partners. We have more or less 14 European partners and an IATA partner, which is a global operating partnership located in Switzerland. So we're covering 6 countries in the world, so to say, if we're relating it to our global reach. And we want to use the lessons learned and to put words into practice and get both feet on the ground. What we will deliver in the end of, well, the end of our term, that is 2023, we deliver the building blocks, the master plan, which is being validated by the living labs. So it is a future-proof data sharing infrastructure. That is what we want to do, and that is what we want to do not only for public administrations, but also for B2B interoperability or from B2A interoperability. Now, in order to do so, we are confronted with some bottlenecks, and the bottlenecks are quite important to overcome. That's the language again. The legislation is a bit fragmented. Simon already identified the importance of not only a single window, but especially the FT, which is about transport, surface transport in Europe. And there's not always a level playing field, being that there are some big American and sometimes Chinese platforms that before you know, they rule the world. And that is not what we want to do. What we also have identified is that the bottlenecks are also within the public administrations and within the companies themselves. And that is, we are always used to do it in this way. Why should we change it? And if we're going to change it, it will cost a hell of a lot of money. And do we really like it? And do we generate new business out of it? And that is something which is very difficult and very important if you want to be a successful project. There should be a match between the enabling, because actually federated is about enabling data sharing, but it should also have a resonance at the companies. And the resonance, and this is going to be identified in this kind of thing. How do you match competence with enablers? The competence is that actually many companies do not know what will be coming to their company tomorrow. They have difficult forecasts to make. They don't have so much knowledge available, and they would get more agile in getting that information. And that is something which should be overcome. And what we try to do at Federated Project in providing the enabling is, what IT platform can I connect to? Am I then stuck to one platform, or can I go to another platform? Is there a monopoly that I'm depending on? Where can I find the data? And what do I need to do as a company in order to freely go wherever I want to go? And then, of course, we have to translate paper into data. Now, this is something which we are doing in several member states, like in Finland and in the Netherlands. We have to identify the state of play of digital readiness in our member states in order to see where the data sharing is actually feasible. This is just a result of the Dutch investigation we did, and we identified there's 2 major steps. There's a digital transition we have to undergo, and after the digital transformation, we can do the digital transformation, and we really can earn a hell of a lot of money. But what we actually experienced also in the small and medium-sized enterprises, for instance, in the Netherlands, that not yet 70% of all the SME companies have a strategy in place or working paperless, have access to data or have data process enabling facilities in place. So there is still a hell of a lot to do. But if you are doing it, you can start considering doing data sharing. We can implement APIs, connectors, start seeking cooperation. And if you're really going to be smooth, you can even engage with a lot of technical people. Then you're going to provide for a blockchain, artificial intelligence, and all these kind of things. The sky is the limit, but there are some limitations as yet. But apart from all these problems, we also need to identify that whatever we do, we need in Europe and we need in our federated product enhance the operational brainpower of public administrations and also of the companies. Oh, now I do it wrong again. Okay, good. So what are we doing apart from identifying all the problems? We are building, developing a reference architecture to allow everybody to engage. Freedom of choice is one of the primary engines. We want to engage the stakeholders. We constantly update what we have been developing, and we try to be as factual as possible. And in a galaxy where not everybody can connect, we try to enable everybody to connect as long as they're willing to participate. Therefore, we have a roadmap, and in the roadmap, you see different angles, different steps. We deal with all kinds of operators. They all own their own software. This is the legacy. They can connect to each other through different systems, and we provide the galaxy, so to say, the opportunity for all the platforms to further connect. How do the living labs then look like? You have living labs in cargo tracking, transport tracking, connecting chains of trust, container tracking, multi-transport platforms, whatever there is, automatic services, including customs. All these issues are further developed in different living labs. We have 22 to show for today, is about 6. And then what is the outcome? That is the services, more visibility, trusted digital operators. And in the end, we serve the really mobility policy of the European Commission or in our national governments, less CO2, less traffic congestion, less administrative burdens, and much more competitiveness. And well, the happier, the better you cannot think of. We do it in accordance to 37 leading principles. They are related to what Simon said we had to adhere to, which is plug and play, federation, technical independent services, and trust and security. And we are adding some additional principles to it. There should be, and that will be further explained in the next day. We have actually, in the state of play, we have more or less 2 phases. Many living labs, as yet, are focusing on developing a data sharing platform. That is beautiful as such, if you are allowed to start data sharing and start enjoying the merits of data sharing. But what we're actually trying to achieve in the next phase is the platform interoperability, that it's federated, that whatever you do, wherever you want to go, you should always be allowed to access whatever platform is available or to whatever company is there in order to identify, hey, listen, I want to do business with you. Hey, listen, I want to get your data. Can you prove what kind of technical arrangements do you have? Do they match? This is actually what we're aiming to achieve in the next coming 2 years. Not all living labs will deliver it, but we will deliver the components. The architecture of intelligence, or the architecture of connectivity. It's all about data holdership and data usership, bringing them together in different interactions. We want to facilitate the processes. Therefore, we have 4 major issues. We have the language. You have to find the data and to find the people. You have to get into the system, and you have to identify that you are secure. So in all these areas, there are different providers, different services, and we have to try to generate and set the scene, set the arrangement, develop a kind of governance what is the minimum requirements for the different companies to apply. Now you see also this flower. The flower is actually the basis of our semantic modeling. It will be further elaborated by Henk, but that is actually how we envisage that the physical world in the different elements of the multimodal process is being translated and being to be translated in a digital world. The end is an overarching perception, actually a kind of internet of logistics. And you connect to that in different ways. And what the living labs will deliver in the end is a classification in what level we are able as federated product to deliver the maturity of the different elements that can be used by not only the European Commission, but the whole European community, and as IATA's there, the whole world, in order to further get acquainted and do the kind of Facebook connectivity that we all become friends, but then not by having a monopoly. Well, get connected, plug in, start feeling well. This is actually the connectivity we create. We create the AC/DC, so you can always plug in as long as you use a kind of transferable language. It's data on demand, it's open access, it's borderless communication. You can go wherever you like, it's safe. And it all starts with reliable data. The data should be in your system. You should make the data available and searchable through an index. You need a service register. You don't need to do the service register in your own system. We can provide you as long as there's a connectivity. There's a search engine. You need to identify, and there needs to be a set of arrangements. How easy life can be. What is specifically, and that is the importance of the data model, is there is no predefined data search methodology. You should be free to choose whatever you like to do, and you should be free to browse through the whole federated galaxy. Now, the output will be a validated master plan. It will be based on the true stories, and that's the living labs. We try to develop how to build it guide, and we try to build and develop a toolkit. Here you see a kind of model of the toolkit. I'm not going to get into it, but we want to provide for that kind of manual assistance to everybody on how to do it. Here you see the planning. I'm not going to do, I developed most of the issues. We are now in 2021. We are going to have a validated master plan, finalize the living labs for the next coming 2 years. And then probably we make a recommendation on how to do it. And what is of major importance, we always do it in consultation, because if we don't include the human element, we will never be successful. Anyway, this is more or less what I had to offer. It will be precisely identified later. And let's join us in our knowledge economy based on federation. Thank you.
Well, we are changing the speaker. Thank you very much, Robert. We received already some question on the slido.com. And after this presentation of 5 minutes, 5 minutes, yeah, sorry. Sorry, just to take over a little bit and leave space for the debater, we will go for a question and answer session. So just a second, and please post your question on Slido, not on the chat. Otherwise, it's a bit more complex. We will do it, but to steer everything in the meantime. So I think, okay, great, you can start. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Roland. I think that was a really impressive overview. And I'm going to zoom in at just one small detail, which is around the semantic modeling. And if I can find the way to operate this. That's it. So we'll look at the objective. I think that's a really easy one, actually. Look at progress, where we're going with this, and how to get involved, because it's an important topic. In terms of what we're trying to achieve, I think that the European interoperability framework describes it really well. And as you can see, there are 2 layers in there that are relatively recognizable for us. One is semantic interoperability, which I think Roland has explained very clearly, as well as the technical interoperability. So within FEDeRATED, we have two major activities. One is around the semantic modeling and the other architecture. And I'll look into the FEDeRATED semantic model now with you. In terms of what it is, and I was pleased to see the word overarching in the previous presentation, that is exactly what the FEDeRATED semantic model does. And if you look at the concept of multimodal, intermodal transport, what you see is that there's all these various sectors: aviation, rail, maritime, road, inland waterways, pipelines, you name it. And each of them today have their own standards for data exchange, whatever form it takes. And even within these sectors, you have multiple standards. I mean, speaking for aviation, although there is only one organization that manages it, even we have 3 different standards relating to different eras of innovation. Rail, same story, maritime, road, everything. And the point is that we don't want to change that. We're not going to change the past. We're not even going to change the present. These sectors have to do what they do. They have to manage their own environment in the way that they think is most fit. What the FEDeRATED semantic model attempts to do is to create an overarching model that allows these various sectors to interoperate via that model. As a result, the semantic model of FEDeRATED is actually quite simple, because it's only looking at the connection of these various modes, which makes it very usable. And the other nice thing is that it doesn't interfere with the work that's already done, because it's on top of, it's not instead of. If you want to look at the progress, I created a big button, see if it's going to work, because we have a website, FEDeRATEDplatforms.eu. Hopefully you've seen it. And if you've been there recently, you'll see there's a new tab there, Developer Portal. This actually tells the entire story of the work that we have done. There's some images there. I think they're going to come in a second. They're coming so well. They're coming. So this piece of work that's on our website now, let's not worry about it. I can describe the images. Yeah, it's fine. Okay. No. I think, in fact, you have already seen it. If you look at the bottom left corner, it says flower model. That's the one that Roland just showed us. So the point is I didn't actually want to go and present everything in detail, more the fact that it's there. So.
No, it's not.
Don't worry, Guido.
I'm sorry.
The Galaxy doesn't work.
Okay. So we're battling with technology here. Developer portal. If you click. Yeah, okay.
Okay. Which one?
Developer portal. Yeah.
No, that's okay.
It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry about it. It's not important. I don't need to go back to the website.
No.
Okay.
You
Need the website. Yeah. Don't worry. I'll take control. Sure. So up to 5 minutes.
We're getting 8.5.
Don't worry.
Okay.
All right, coming back to the developer portal. In any case, what I was going to say to you is that if you want to find out what we have done, it's all documented here. And there are some images, and those people at home, they'll probably see that. It's all there. All the descriptions are there. There's online documentation, which allows you to search through the model, get all the details of what it is. So it's not just a nice picture of a flower. It goes right down to the lowest level of detail. One really cool feature on this new site is that there is actually a query engine implemented on the FEDeRATED project.eu website, where you can actually create queries. And this is a language, it's called Sparkle. It has a lot of similarities with SQL for those of you that come from that era. If you look at a YouTube for 10 minutes, you'll understand the difference. And you can actually, using this, access information from various modes of transport of those people that have actually provided access to their data. So this is going to be a pretty cool tool going forward. There you are. So there's the this one here. Okay. Here's the images that we were looking for. And if you go down, you go down. Sorry.
Yeah.
You can look at that screen. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. You'll see we can drill down and we can drill down further, and the details are all there. But I didn't really want to focus too much on that, because this is time where you need to stand down quietly, and you can contact us if you need some more information. If I go back to the presentation. So by all means, have a look around here. And I think that in future presentations, we'll actually use these tools to show you some examples. But right now, that's where we are, the work that's been done. And also my thanks to the partners at Tino that have done a lot of work for that. Just in terms of what the next activities are, I think one of the really important activities over the next 2 years, and Roland referred to it, is that we really need to see a semantic integration of the living labs. That is one of the big activities. These labs are running, a number of them are actually in a very advanced state, and we need to make sure they can talk to each other using this semantic integration approach. The second thing that came up earlier also in the comments from Shimon is that we need to look at governance of something like this. This doesn't stop when FEDeRATED project is finished. This needs to continue. So we need to consider how can we continue to maintain and develop this semantic model. And then lastly, as a project, we need to see if it can cooperate with other semantic projects in logistics and transport. There are literally tens of thousands of organizations and companies in the world that have developed exactly this approach, but not so many in logistics and transport. It's a sector that's usually coming up. We've done some work with ERA, very successful, and would like to do some more work with others. So this is something that we need to work on. In terms of getting involved, well, living labs, this is a call for action. Need to make sure we start working on this integration. In terms of the governance, we have a group within FEDeRATED that looks at that, and the comments from Shimon are very welcome in terms of what needs to happen also at ADG Move side. And then lastly, in terms of cooperation, how to get involved, I think the board and the semantic modeling group should agree on what are the most likely entities we should cooperate with. And with that, I think I will relinquish my 5 minutes, whatever time is left.
Okay, so thank you very much. We have, I will try now to share the screen of Slido of some question and answer. Just a second. Okay, so I guess if you agree, we can share these questions. And yeah, I will post the question obviously to the first 3 speakers, and up to you who will answer. So first of all, the first question is interoperability layers, semantics, events, authentication, identification. Which standards are being developed, adopted, and who will make sure they are going to use it? Anybody, Simon included, want to answer on this point?
So in terms of the standards, we're using the standard technologies. In fact, it's the web technologies, whether it relates to security or APIs or anything like that. Authentication, again, we use standard technologies, whether it's auth or other types of similar technologies. When it comes to semantics, it's entirely based on the semantic web specifications and technologies that are out there. So there's actually literally nothing that we are inventing ourselves. It's more an application of.
Okay, the next question, behind data sharing, there is the ultimate goal of cooperation, collaboration in terms of functional supply chain. How is this addressed? Who would like to answer?
Can you hear me?
Press it again. Yes.
Thank you. Well, actually, what I said is we are enabling the opportunity to be trusted. So we set some components in place. We make the arrangements and give the covering issues to be dealt with. If we deal with security, we are further developing how to do security in such a way that the identity, the decentralized registry, and all these things are going to be provided for, and you can make use of it. And although I said you don't trust too much the technology people, we have to trust the technology people, making sure that this can be done. We are setting the conditions based on which it should be done. They provide for the opportunity to do it. And then it is like leading the horse to the water. We cannot make you drink. We only can show you the wood through the trees. We guide you through the lake. We show you how you can do it. And if you want to taste the water, it's up to you. We're not going to force you, but we're going to provide the opportunity for you in order to allow you your own decision that you say, yeah, why not? Let's give it a try. And whether you do it on a small level or on a big level, it's up to you. But what I also want to stress is you need also the competence to engage. So it's a two-way street. But we are not going to force any company to do it, but we're going to provide the opportunity to get into water and enjoy the lake.
I think the next two questions are.
If I may complete, just from our perspective, because we are developing specific solutions for interoperable data sharing in the supply chains. I think that the really important role of the DTLF and the supporting projects, including FEDeRATED. However, at the end of the day, obviously, all the solutions should be adopted for the community, for the sector. So this is super important to ensure a proper onboarding of the solutions and community building. And also the communication, proper communication of the benefits for the companies would be of great importance for this process in future. So this is something which we need to pay attention to at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, as mentioned, we have the other two questions related to this point. So data sharing means that players trust each other and benefit and less risk. But today is the opposite. So how to address this problem? And the next one, if there's going to be any obligation to apply the forms and certify the platform by 2025. I think they are linked of the building the community, but maybe Simon, if you want to add anything concerning.
I think this is related to FT framework. Because this is the system we are creating for data exchange, electronic data exchange between the businesses and the authorities, and indeed it will be based on a system of certified platforms and data providers in order to guarantee, the data which is shared with companies, with the authorities, is harmonized at the EU level. So basically, this is exactly what I said during my presentation. It's now subject to technical discussions at the level of DTLF and also at the level of the member states, because this technical implementation of FT will be done through so-called delegated and implementing acts. So there are some kind of secondary legislation which is let's say done by the EU. And the delegated acts are, let's say, developed by the Commission in cooperation with specific expert groups. So DTLF would be the backbone for the delegated acts, and this would be, for example, for data model, and some other requirements for the member states, for example, will be done in close cooperation between the Commission and all member states. So that would be a kind of separate group, member state group created or is already created, which will address these specific technical aspects to be implemented directly by the member states. I think the certification, specification for this for the platforms, FT platforms, will be done through the delegated act, I think, if I'm not mistaken, because I'm not personally, let's say, leading this process as my colleague, but I think this would be the delegated act. So it's still work in progress. So that's my message. Thank you.
And the next one is related to the hybrid. So this period where we have both paper and digital interchangeability. So how to deal with this hybrid period?
Say again the question.
Can you also say something about the hybrid period with paper and digital are used interchangeably?
It's always difficult to see the correlation, and
well, I sorry.
no, please, Simon, go.
No, I think it's still about FT.
Yeah.
So because as I said, FT does not force companies to go for electronic. If companies want, then they can opt for paper reporting. It's still possible. It's just only the harmonization of the electronic exchange. So that is the one of the assumptions behind FT, despite of strong, let's say, pressure from the European Parliament, for example, which wanted to make it obligatory, this electronic exchange.
Okay, then, sorry, because it's tricky. The most voted answer are posted on top, so I don't know exactly which one are the, but we will try to manage it. So then we have, could you explain about the adoption, about the semantic model you propose? Will work in our be plug and play with current system and information sharing models? So if you can explain about the adoption of semantic model.
So what we're seeing is that the existing standards that are out there in the various modes of transport are all in some stage of evolution of actually connecting with semantic technologies. Some are more advanced than others. So I think what we're going to expect is those standards will actually be already transformed into compatible technology for semantic models. When it comes for the non-standards, which would practically be the implementation of perhaps private IT systems, at some point they will have to make a decision whether or not they want to plug into these semantic technologies or not. If they do, they will have to implement some form of converter or plugin or something like that to be able to do that. But I think what you will see in the next few years is this is going to be a very common approach. And therefore, I'm quite certain that most of those companies will actually want to expand their systems to make it compatible with semantic technologies.
Then there is a question about the position of Belgium in this process and the support of public authority and readiness of logistic companies. If anybody of Belgium will answer.
The neighbor.
I'm the federated project coordinator. I'm coming from the Netherlands, so I'm not in a position to say anything about Belgium, of course. But Belgium is a very important country, and I think in general, and that is also, if companies from several countries would like to participate in the federated, actually it's independent on the country where they're coming from. Please join the project, and then if it's a company, we can always talk with the public authorities of the country whether they're also interested. But in a way, the federated project is an open community, and the more the merrier, because we like to share, we like to commit, we like to engage. So if there's a Belgian company who would like to participate, please do. And then we go to talk further, did we need to include a public administration, yes or no? But we have to give the leverage of federated data sharing, and in that sense, just join the project or participate in a living lab or come up with an idea, and we can share ideas, and maybe we can develop in the fringes of our project also a nice idea. We're more than happy to engage either in the architecture, living labs, or also in the semantic modeling, because we have to get this thing done. And actually, another question is about the hybrid period between the paper and the transition from paper into the data. And of course, there's a big fight, and it's about carrot and stick. And actually, what I think should be done is, and that is something we are fighting for in the federated project as well, and we are evolving a bit to tell the digital story on how to digitalize to put it in as simple words as possible, because probably it's not so complicated as it appears to be. What is very, very complicated for many companies is that they want to connect to other companies. And if they want to connect to other companies, they call it data sharing. And before they know, they are charged 20,000 euros to be in connectivity with 5 other companies. And they're still not free to go. And there we have to show that to allow someone the freedom to travel in the federated environment, it doesn't need to cost as much money. And then I have to be bold. Many people earning a hell of a lot of money and making the digital world very difficult. And that is actually what we try to break that wall. And well, I think the person that is asking the question is also very much involved in not of sending burdens or just sending burdens, but that's the business we are in. We have to provide for the provision that actually a standard is something which is to be used and not is a business model. And that is one of the revolutionary approach we advocating. Break down that wall, just allow the opportunity to get in and make it easier for small and medium-sized companies and make them aware of the opportunity. For now, it's not burdening. And we have to, and FD is very easy in that by just making it an obligation for the public administrations to solve the issue in order to allow companies the opportunity to share. And for us in the federated project, we actually quite, well, not scrutinizing the commission or the comitology, but also say, whatever you're going to do from a legislative point of view on the implementation of the FT, don't do national access points, do harmonized access points, make it available to everybody in order to allow an FT legislation to provide for the provision of sharing data with whoever you like. And that is the future-proof perspective we are trying to elaborate on. Thanks.
We have some other, I will ask you for a bit shorter answering so we can fulfill all. In any case, there is one question concerning the Netherlands OpenTrip model, whether this is a kind of semantic model. What is the difference between a data model and semantic model?
So actually, I think the answer to the first part of the question is in the second part of the phrase, which is that the data and the semantic model are related, but they're not exactly the same. So I don't know all the details about OTM, but let's assume for the sake of the question that it's a data model. A semantic model actually is an overarching model of the data model. In other words, it is more conceptual than the actual data model. So if, for example, we'd want to connect the OpenTrip model to the federated model, there will be some sort of converter we would build to do so, unless, of course, the OpenTrip model people are willing to put a semantic model on top of it, which they could because they're highly related. So I think it's a technical development they would have to do, or else we build an interface, but both will be possible.
Thank you. Then there's a poster proposing Aisha EU as a model to use for data access in the sovereignty solution based on the open web components in the Select Trust network in Netherlands logistics. Then another question next to interoperability, there is also data portability. Is this all current to avoid vendor look in, for example, Facebook or Google methods?
You say
it. I think actually that's a really interesting question, because the reason we do open source standards, the reason we do semantic modeling is to avoid lock-in into technologies. It's to avoid the data gets locked in. The reason people make the data available as a share is to ensure it doesn't stay within their systems. So the very concept of data sharing and semantic technologies is to make data shareable and make it portable. So in that sense, anyone that engages in this is actually fighting the lock-in that is currently happening. So if anything, I think it's a solution to that problem.
I think another question to Simon about the EFTI. When will the decision on data model be communicated and made?
So sorry, which question is it? Can you repeat?
data model will be used for EFTI, and when will the decision on data model be made and communicated?
Okay, so on the decision, I think I've shown on the slide that this is the subject of the first delegated act, which is now being prepared. So there is a very intensive work of the DTLF on data modeling. This will be done in close, let's say, conjunction with UN CEFAC data model, as far as I know. But in terms of date, it's the adoption of the data model is foreseen in 2023. So this is the reply on the adoption date. On the as regards the data model, which concretely the relations with UN CEFAC, perhaps I will ask to step in. Perhaps Rudy knows, or my colleague Vilu Varias. I think I've seen him on the list because Vilu is working directly on FT.
Yeah, before, but maybe Guido,
Yeah.
Guido, maybe.
Shall I give a 1 minute introduction?
No, sorry. No, because in one of the demos this morning, we will deal with the FT and the data needs related to the FT, applying the semantic model. So I would love to avoid, because that is more or less the part of the revolutionary approach of the federated, don't discuss data models. We are going to have an overarching perspective where data models fit in. If we are going to fight whether what data model works for what, we will never finish the job. And that is what we would, I would love to leave that issue for the later stage, where you see how the FT and the semantic modeling we apply really match together. And the question whether you need a data model for the FT then can also be answered, but probably that will be answered not in this conference, but that will be answered in the context of the DTLF and the comitology and that follow later, because the discussion will go nowhere if we don't do it. Sorry to say.
Then straight to how to ensure the federated semantic model to be the semantic model for freight and logistics is the engagement of company adopting using their important needs.
Well, let's look at the evolution of this. At this point, there aren't many alternatives. So it's not like you have to choose today. So today, this is what there is, and that's what we're working on. If we project ourselves maybe sometime in the future, perhaps there will be other models like that. Perhaps those models will emerge in other parts of the world as well, not necessarily Europe. The whole idea about semantic models and the technology that goes with it is the ease and the facility with which you can integrate them. So if, for example, in China, they do something and it's different, or in Canada, that's okay. We can integrate with that and interoperate with that. And the example we have seen, for example, with the ERA model that they built, we managed to align the federated model with that model. So I don't think there's an issue with having only one model. There can be many, but right now, there aren't that many to choose from. So today, the problem is academic.
Thank you. Then we have two questions. People interested about our project, Belgian company interested to become partner of federated, and Benelux CMR pilot possibility to be integrated in federated. So I think it's a question about the applicant or interested party. So I think, yeah, the point is we are interested and we are here to consult. I mean, to get a consultation, but also to involve additional subjects. So that's most welcome. Then we have made an analysis of the overlap between federated semantic model and the OTM data field. Most is additional details. Okay.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Okay. It seems quite easy to elevate the OTM to a semantic model, integrate the link into the federated model.
Yes. Quick answer is yes.
Okay. Suggested to improve the semantic model, how can they be submitted? How to submit the suggestion form. I think we can receive an email on our platform, and we can really integrate in our work process. Okay. So thank you very much. I tried really to quick close this first session because we need to move on to the lab, the demos. So thank you much.
Thank you.
I will invite immediately then the first presenter, Lars, who is going to present the CAS demo. Lars, please, the floor is yours. I will switch to your presentation. Obviously, please post, as mentioned, not in the chat, because otherwise we cannot manage all the questions, but in the slide, all questions you may be interested to post.
Do I need a mic? Yeah. Hello, so my name is Lassi Nykänen and I come from FEDeRATED, which is SME company from Finland, and I work there as a project director. And it's an honor to be here with this big team, and this has been a very interesting journey, although we are now on the midterm event, so there still will be quite much interesting outcomes to come. So yeah, I will introduce you one of our living labs. We have 3 living labs that FEDeRATED is running there in Finland. And FEDeRATED, as I said, is a SME company. So we are specialized on digital solutions on transport and logistics, location-based services, and emission monitoring. And in this picture, you can see the living lab that I will show you. It's called Automated Border Crossing, which is happening there in the very north of Finland. And yeah, so actually it's 1 month to go Christmas Eve, so it's nice to show you this picture from the backyard of Santa Claus. So this living lab is there in the border between Finland and Norway. So this is EU border, and we are doing this in collaboration with Finnish customs and Norwegian customs, and some subcontractors for the Finnish customs. And in this picture, you can see the very first commercial transportation that went in this automated border crossing. And the traffic light shows there is that if that is red, you are not allowed to pass. If that is green, you are allowed to pass. And the border crossing station there is called Kivilompolo. So it's quite rural area and also cold, as you can see. This picture is from spring 2021. And since that, we have had there a couple demo pilots. And now I will show you some video, which is showing what we have done and what will still come there. And on the back end, we have all this federated data sharing model and data sharing initiative that we are looking. We are looking this based on IATA 1 record. You will hear more about that today after me. And this solution is built based on our CaaS approach, or corridor as a service approach. So where we are combining digital logistics to smart infrastructure. And in this case, smart infrastructure is provided by Caverion and Marshall AI that are working as a subcontractor for Finnish customs. Now, let me... Okay. Should be some YouTube video. Can I check if it works from here?
Yeah, sure.
No. This is always, I was be afraid in combining video and the presentation. Yeah. Yeah. Audio. Yeah.
Imagine that there was a truck delivering fresh food from North Europe to Asia, but it would get stuck somewhere in the way for several days and the whole cargo would be spoiled. Sad, huh? This is still reality in many cases. Time-crucial items such as fresh food and medicine get spoiled before they get to the destination and can't reach those who desperately need them. We need to change this. So hear me out when I'm introducing you to the new ABC, Automatic Border Crossing. ABC consists of two parts, data sharing and intelligent infrastructure. This means value-adding application and data sharing platform provided by FEDeRATED for other supply chain stakeholders, which is enabled by IoT devices that are utilizing cloud data sharing. And vehicle recognition software and application for customs provided by Marshall AI and Caverion. The purpose of ABC solution is to make life easier for drivers and customs, as well as for the sender and receiver of the cargo. Automatic border crossing is especially useful when exporting and importing goods. It makes transit transportation transparent, smooth, and reliable. Let's see how this all works in non-EU and EU borders. The perishable goods are packed, for example in Norway, to the truck which is equipped with a bunch of IoT devices. Customs clearance documents are prepared and fed into an electronic seal, which is sealing and tracking the location of the cargo. The status info is given to customs, and estimated time of arrival is given to the air cargo operator through the application. On the way to the Norwegian-Finnish border, the IoT devices keep sending information of the cargo's whereabouts. At the same time, it shares data with customs, sender, and receiver about stops, tracks, and unauthorized opening of the cargo. At the Norwegian-Finnish border, the truck smoothly passes on the cast line due to on-field smart vehicle recognition solution and communication data sharing between transportation and customs. The customs clearance can be done without any border personnel or the driver leaving the truck at the checkpoint. Customs authorities are informed about each step at any time of the delivery process from the very beginning of the journey. This all is possible due to transport documents and info sharing, where information about cargo, vehicle, and driver are received and prepared upfront at the customs. The driver application then helps customs to link info to specific cargo. When getting closer to the Finnish airport, driver application sends notifications to customs and air cargo operator so that they can start preparing customs clearance and the workforce to load the cargo before the truck arrives at the airport. The truck gets closer to the airport, and if everything is okay, the customs will give driver the permission to unload the cargo, and then the aircraft can be packed and set off on time. The ABC is ensuring reliability, transparency, and safety along the entire supply chain. The customs can monitor goods, cargo, transport equipment, driver, and the transport company during the whole transport chain with unique IDs and tracking codes. Through this secure process, ABC enables smooth cross-border logistics on multimodal supply chains. Welcome to ABC.
Hear me now? Yeah, I should see the presentation. Just a second. So it should be
Yeah. So that was the video about the process, what we are doing there. And as I said, we are enhancing the transparency of this supply chain. Now I summarize you what is there happening with our application and how the process goes. So it all starts with when we are creating the shipment. And in this case, haulier or forwarder, they are doing the case on behalf of fish farm. And in that phase, in our application, they are also opening the process. Then we generate the MRN number, which is movement reference number, which is unique ID, which is as a key, working as a key for the customs to link that this is this exact shipment, and this is the shipment that for which shipment they are opening this transit process. Then we need to link this shipment number also to the driver and the vehicle, because also those are passing the EU border. And then we are sharing this information to the customs that this shipment number with this driver, with this truck is approaching to the border. So we are sharing the estimated time of arrival to the border, and we are sharing the location. Then in this process, this is pretty long drive from northern Finland to the southern Finland. So there is also switching of the driver. So we are enabling also that. So then we have to tell for the customers also that, okay, there was driver change during this process. And all these can be done in this application. And we are sharing this information for the customs and other stakeholders in this process. And of course, then we have the map interface where you can see where we are at the moment and when we are arriving. And then we are sharing these notifications, what is happening, is there some alerts, or what is the status of the shipment. And when we approach to the Finnish airport in Helsinki-Vantaa, then we end this delivery and the transit process is ended. And this information is then shared to the customs. So this is in a nutshell what we do there in this process. And behind we have now this IATA one record world that we are now looking. We don't have our own server yet, but we are now running up that. But this is compliant with the IATA one record model. So when we open the server, then we can really go in the federated world. And then finally, my favorite part of this is this PPP collaboration, what we have done together with the customers. This is a piloting roller coaster that you can see here. This is a pretty long roller coaster. If you see the timeline there on the bottom, it all started 2018 when we started discussions with the Finnish customs that this is the idea what we would like to achieve, and then we tried to fit this on the custom ideas. And always when we go up in this roller coaster, we are getting more knowledge, more information. And when we go down, then we are narrowing or scoping what we are doing. And this is also a combination of like top-down, bottom-up approach, because in the first phase, in the planning phase, this was more top-down approach. We had custom ideas, custom strategy, what they need to do. They have to focus on the risk transit, risk transportation, and allow free movement on the other way. Then with this piloting phase where we are now, we have bottom-up approach there, where we are using this pilot to give information, give feedback, how it really works in real life. And this has been a very interesting journey. And during the 2020 summer, Finnish Custom had this kind of public tender process where they purchased this intelligent infrastructure on this border crossing station. And now they have it. And now they are looking, can they expand that to the other border crossing stations also? And this has been only possible with this pretty long planning phase, a lot of discussions showing different kind of approaches, different kind of scenarios, what we can do and where we can do and when we can do. And then this collaboration between the people. So I really need to thank Finnish Customs who have helped us with this in their headquarters, but also there in the local border crossing station. And so for customs, this has shown like how to do this kind of learning by doing approach. And now Finnish Customs, just like a couple of weeks ago, they stated that this was very good new approach for them, how they are now looking, how they can develop their services, their like infrastructure to meet these requirements that digital logistics is setting. And for us, this kind of Salomon case is like a so good example. This is valuable goods with time-sensitive transportation, which need all kind of automated processes, data sharing to enable that we can succeed in this 36 hours that we have from the Salomon leaves from northern Norway all the way to the Asian markets. So this was in a nutshell, and I'm happy to tell you more if you contact me via email or LinkedIn or come and talk with me.
I really like, because what we want to do is to present the benefit for the specific institution dealing with the demo, but the lab, but also for the stakeholder involved. So it's really important. In this case, we have really underlined the relation with public administration, the customer in particular, and that is really for me an important point, because sometimes we're not taking into account those external subjects of our supply chain, which may be a deal stopper if not properly involved. So that's really important point. While you were presenting this, we get some question. I will make the question and answer time immediately after each presentation, so they're closer to the contents just delivered. The first one on Slido, then I will try to deal also with the one on the chat, but is it also applicable for UK border after Brexit? As far as I know, the Flemish government will reinvent the same system. Are contacts established?
Yeah, well, when we saw the case also after the Brexit, we were looking that, yeah, of course, this is something that we could scale up there. But at the moment in Mediafy, we have only 23 person and we have quite much to do. So we might need some additional resources or help to scale up there also. But yeah, this could be scalable also there. Of course, then we need to discuss with the local custom officers and all that, and what kind of schedule they have. And when we are talking about this kind of international border crossing, it's not going to happen overnight. So we need some time there.
Yeah.
Maybe in addition, I think some partners also have the customs on board in their projects, like a small country called the Netherlands. And we already know about your product, of course, so there can be a further engagement within like a combined living lab to see how it could work in the, what they call Brexit, I think, or whatever. Yep.
Yeah, sounds good.
The next question is it possible to combine living lab in Holland with this use case? How to start?
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
How to start?
I think we need some kind of first meeting where we set like schedule and goals and targets, and then just do it.
Yeah, maybe, sorry to interview again. I know the person who asked the question. I know he's a very energetic person who's very capable of setting up the meeting. So I leave it some questions which are posed. We more or less always can say yes, but we also ask then some initiatives of the person to further get in touch. We can help, we can also engage, but we would like to have proactivity from both sides. Is that okay?
Yep.
Great, thanks.
Okay. Then we have in the chat two questions. I suppose not to make exceptions, so I ask really to put on slide, but because of the length, I will try to keep also, the dialogue still open for every device and so on. Tricky, but so first point was a general info. Data portability is a concept to protect the data from having the data stored in silos or walled gardens that are incompatible with one another. So a cross-platform. That's subjecting them to vendor lock-in and making the creation of data backups difficult. I don't know if it's concerned, I mean, it concerned directly your demo or in general issues. Roland, if you want to give a comment or less. Yeah, I know, just, we try to. So, Roland, you want to give any comment?
I can only say I take this question as general knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And I think also the comment of Fernando Liesa is also, I think, also a general but really relevant is just a comment in most cases. The example focus on managing disrupting events, which is both true and important. My perspective is that data sharing and solutions like the one today presented should facilitate cooperation across stakeholders. Many opportunities for efficient gains are not worth it due to the cost of realizing them. This is a really important point. value for money, let's say. Data sharing principle aim to make collaboration possible at zero marginal cost, or at least a proper return of investment. That will be my economical comment. That is really important to have this baseline to understand how much we invest now or for the future, maybe.
As a general remark, actually, this also has to do with the competences of the companies. I already addressed it in my presentation. We should further develop a kind of monitoring system in order to see what kind of competences are necessary in order to reach out to one another. This has not proficiently done as yet. But I think the question more or less it says the same as I was saying in my presentation, and also in Finland. I think there's a special research body also now actively engaged. Maybe it's interesting also to identify that issue, which is about an awareness campaign, enabling companies how to further engage. That you see there's something to win, and there's not always to lose. But you want or not? About your Finnish approach on how to do data collection.
Yeah, so we are doing collaboration with many like public authorities or stakeholders relevant on digitalization and logistics. And at the moment, they are like a little bit wondering, or not just a little bit, but they are wondering how skillful our companies are, and can they really get these benefits that digitalization is promising if they don't have the capabilities and they don't have the knowledge to do that. So now we are making surveys, studies, workshops where we are collecting this information, but also we are making dissemination events where we are sharing this knowledge for the companies and stakeholders who need logistics and who are now facing this new era of digitalization and data sharing. So yeah, this is sharing is caring.
And caring is love. Okay, sorry. So thank you very much, Les. I invited the next speaker. So Mats, please, if you can join the floor. We had in the parallel some tools on the Slido. One was about the knowledge about the DTLF. 80% of the attendees knew about it, 20% about not. And then we had a second poll right currently shown. Is your institution ready for digitalization? Do you have a digital strategy? So 83 say yes, 17 not. This is somehow data that I think is coherent with other interview we made during this project. But it's interesting to see that the biggest part of us, obviously, joining this event means that we have interest. Otherwise, it's quite incoherent. Is really a potential partner for our development. So I will try to match with the right one. Is this one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I need also to get into internet, to log into it.
We will try. Okay.
We'll try.
Okay. Let's check with it. Or, yeah.
Perfect. So good morning, everyone. I'm Mats Åkerfeldt, or Åkerfeldt if you want, from the Swedish Transport Administration, Trafikverket, as we say in Sweden. I'm sharing my time in dealing with European projects like FEDeRATED and even in Shift Rail. And the other part is about to be a team member of the Rail Freight Corridor number 3, Stockholm-Palermo. So I will share some pictures about how to do this like that. Okay. So RFID stands for Radio Frequency Identification, which is quite common in the society today, but this is a rail application that we have. And the basic idea was, when we started this living lab, was that we have this standardization, European rail standard that all infrastructure management throughout Europe have signed. And it's done through a standardization company called GS1, Global Standard 1, which is owned by their stakeholders or their customers, non-profitable. And why is data sharing among the European rail essential? Because there is customer demands. They want to know, where is my wagons? How can I enhance my operation? So we aim to track and trace railway vehicles all over Europe. And of course, freight wagons is our interest from this side. And we want to scale up the current RFID solution for rail into multimodal transport to a European rail level. And of course, then you can reduce administrative work and internal reports and so on. So this is it's essential. And we have a use case which is single wagon traffic in Europe, and single traffic Europe can be called like the black box, because you don't know where your wagon is. This is just an image of how it looks like from Sweden. You can see this pool on the left hand on the track. The small white box here. I don't know if you can do like this. You can do it. This is antenna. And the white cabinet under is the reader. And then it connects to the fiber and the internet and goes to server central in a traffic record. So this is really the how it looks like, and this is the information that we can track from the reader. What is it? It's a special wagon. It's a wagon number. When, exact time, when did this wagon pass this reader? Where? Yeah. Where is the reader located on the track? And why? Was it turning up or down the track? So it's the wagon number that is programmed in the tag, and the company prefix, who is the owner of the wagon. And the tag placement is on the left mounted. It looks like this. This is a tag. It's for sale. Gunnar has a lot of them. It costs about, what do we say, 10 euros for one tag. So you need 2 tags on one wagon. And 10 euros is, then it's programmed and fixed on the wagon as well. So the cost is about 20 to 25 euros for each wagon. And the readers are, the reading from the readers are from the track charges from the infrastructure manager. So it's kind of free, no extra cost. So this is really a low cost application, but it is filling a gap in the information throughout the rail. Yeah, then I will shift to internet. And how do you do that?
It's not big here? No?
No, I did it. I did it hard.
No problem. Go here.
Like you
Can you type here? Just a second. So it's easier for you to see the text. Okay.
Sorry.
Can you manage the rest in the 10 minutes?
One dot too much. We have created a user interface for this demo, for this moment. In Sweden, we have installed about 380 RFID readers across the network. And you can see them all in this map. And for this demo, we have also plotted readers in Europe. We have contacted on Denmark. So we have their readers plotted here. And we have contacted Deutsche Bahn, DB Netz, and we have contacted SNC Presso. But they just have 2 readers. If they have 10 cameras instead. So then you can for instance, see, click on the reader, then you can see all the readings that were made. The internet is a little bit slow. One found. This is as usual. No hit. I'll try that one. What is happening here? I don't know. Let's do it like this. No, I will go to trains wagons instead. You can see this wagon was read up here. It was done just a few minutes ago. And you can follow all wagons to this interface. And if you click on another one, you can see the next. The latest reading is on top, and then it descends on the list. You can click on another one. You can see what happens. And you can see on the trail level as well. Okay, let's go back to the here. We have a use case together with Scan Fiber Logistic, which is, can say, they are a freight forwarder for paper mills, 10 to 15 paper mills in Sweden, and they are all of their transports are going by rail down to deep in Europe, and they want to have more information about the wagons. They have some 5,000 wagons they rent from a rental car or a freight car rental owner. And if they want to plan all the wagons, because if they can plan it better, have more information, when empty wagons is coming back through Denmark and Germany, they can plan a better utilization for the wagons. So potentially they can perhaps save 10 to 15% of the wagons stock. And that's a lot of money. And that will enhance the services, business services for them, and they can follow the market more good. And this is a picture from industrial tracks in paper mill in middle Sweden, where we have installed the readers. These readers are a research product from a technical university in Sweden, where we have even more low-cost readers, which without energy for themselves. They are solar powered, and in order not to have them on all the time, they have developed. They call it iron guard. They can feel if train is coming towards the reader. They can read the change of the electromagnetic field in the air. They can start the engine. It's very interesting. So this is the case. One case is from Italy, outside Verona, to up to Frövi in Sweden, and the other case is Dijon from the same mill. And I will jump again. So here we can follow. This is mock. This is mock data, because we haven't been able to receive
real data from Italy, Germany, or France yet. We're still working with it. So this mock data, you can see the reading in Verona was some week ago, 11:37. Then you can follow the readings to Europe. Passing Elgharting in Germany, Tornisch outside Hamburg, Forhus, which is the Danish border, and Tostrup, which is close to Copenhagen, and Fågeltorp is in the Swedish part of the stretch, just with the bridge, ends in Sweden, and so on, up to Frövi. And this is very interesting for the forwarder, because then it can follow the wagons throughout Europe and plan accordingly. And hopefully they will save some costs and enhance the services to the customers. So this is kind of the black box today. You don't have this information. So it's, the time is running out.
A bit here.
A bit, yeah. So let's.
The root one.
No problem. It's the end of the presentation, actually.
Yeah, we did not have a link directly.
So we are what we're doing now. The next step is to try to get data from other infrastructure managers, as done in Denmark, Germany, and France. I dropped some leading principles from FEDeRATED. I think business is what we are doing in enhance the business for the rail traffic, so they can be more informative to the customers and be transparent. And I don't know, Gunnar, if I can say about DCSA. Can I mention that?
Digital container ship.
I don't know if they can hear you. I don't think they can hear you.
Okay. You can speak loud.
They can speak in here. Speak in here.
No,
Okay.
take it here. You take it here. You can speak from.
Okay. Is it good enough?
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned DCSA, Digital Shipping Container Association. They've seen what we are doing for the Swedish Railway and the European Railway. So they were a little bit curious if they could use the same concept for the container industry and small containers around the world. So we are just starting a pre-study together with them and see if we can use the same principles really. And it looks very promising so far. I think we will do a deeper presentation on next session, because we are just in the pre-study phase together with them. But it's very interesting anyhow. Okay.
We want to launch a pilot together with the Port of Göteborg.
Yeah, exactly. We are discussing to set up a pilot in Göteborg to see if we can use that, and also together with this rail industry to follow, because DCSA, they say they have absolutely good control to load the container on the ship and so on, but when they unload it and transport them out in the countryside and so on, they drop the track and trace possibility. So that's what we are doing together with the railway industry, and to try to merge container and railway handling in a proper way. Okay.
Thank you. Just to move shortly to the question poster. We are a bit obviously tight with the time, a bit delay. That's traditional, but it means that good dialogue among the presentation and the participants. So there are some questions that are still back to the principles or the main point we were discussing at the beginning. So I will just shortly, I don't know, Roland, if you want to say which one we can answer directly, other than for this demo, but I will go shortly just to take over the time. So first one, you say that we are not using the one record server. Can you elaborate how you realize the data exchange? that is obviously not about your demo directly, but the previous one.
That's already answered the question, I think.
So it's done. Okay, sorry, because yeah. So with regard to ABC demo, which different and concrete platform were connected in a federated way? Is more info available? Okay, then I'm very interested to for the findings about the readiness of company. I think it's about your interview in Holland. So maybe I don't know. Maybe we can share some information on the platform or all this.
Yeah. I think this digital readiness and the efforts being put onto in different countries, we have to assemble that and make it into a special chapter or something, because we have to grow on the issue, and that might also go to the other countries in the federated project, but it should also have a EU all language involvement in that. Yeah.
Then a direct question about the last demo on rail demo application. Next to forward, who use it may use it. Railway infra manager, shipper, client, terminal. So which one do you expect to be the user?
I think the major one who will use it is the rail operators, the rail companies. But I just say a little bit about the business, because when we are getting deeper into this information sharing between our stakeholders in this living lab, they are a little bit concerned about data sharing, because this is information that someone has to have. And if you share the information, business information between stakeholders, the power might be shifted to someone else. And that's a big issue for us, because someone has to own the data, and we see what happens to the next phase of this project. Yeah, thank you.
Also, you were mentioning the benefit for forwarding company or combined transport operators. Okay, then another question for you. I think how is the use case complementary with RNE ITA, estimated time of arrival program?
I think you mean this TIS system, perhaps. Happens to be a little bit have a little bit knowledge about that. The TIS, if it's the TIS, the RNE system is on train level, not on wagon level. But of course, the wagon is running in the wagon. So if you know which train the wagon is running, you can use multiple sources to see where your wagon is. So somehow they are connected, but it's a lot of sources for data.
I think that's driving to the next question. Is there room for different tracker system companies, or should the EU apply the same system everywhere?
I don't think.
Well, I think the aim of FEDeRATED is to enable a model, let's say, principles, and then open for anyone to take part. I think this is the concept. Data sovereignty is one point, my data, how to use it, but the standard, the plugging approach, the concept to be all in the same ecosystem, that is the point. So I think there is no border to keep anybody outside, but just the opposite. Share the data, having the best data environment, I think. So if I'm allowed to answer, no, yes, it's a space for everyone. Then RFD demo is the cargo owners could be allowed to subscribe of information about a wagon where the cargo owner that they cargo on. So if they can subscribe for this information, I think the cargo owner as well. So the shippers.
Yeah. The shippers are they want to have this information somehow. Today, it's not transparent enough for the customers.
I think the trickiest part is to get all the railway company on board.
Yeah.
That is going to be a question about the competition among the different operators, but I don't want to go on this field. You know, we create the standard for everybody to join. Yes. Then who want to join is gaining an advantage, I would say. So thank you very much. Sorry if I'm so rude and skipping and try to sum up. Then I invite the next speaker, Jaime. Demo and so on, right?
is this?
Yeah, this one. 12 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Good morning for everybody. Thank you for the virtual attendees for joining. Okay. It's okay. This is.
Yeah, go ahead. It's okay.
Okay. Okay. So good morning, everybody, and thank you for the virtual attendees. My name is Jaime. Luezas Jaime is the name. I work for Puertos del Estado in Spain, which is the part of the port administration. And our Living Lab, our project is called SIMPLE. SIMPLE is the acronym of the Simplification of Processes for Logistic Enhancement, which is the meaning and the objective and then the main objective of our project. Sorry, because we have, okay. Okay, thank you. So the SIMPLE is try to be a platform to make possible a collaborative space for the exchange of data between the different nodes and modes of the transport chain. And the main aims are to share data between the different actors in the supply chain, to enable to make easy the data exchange between the operators and from the operators with the administration also. So trying to optimize the existing operations and the existing reporting obligations to simplify the transshipments and the relation between the road, rail, and maritime operators in Spain, trying to promote the synchromodality between these three modes. And we try to enable the interoperability with between the external system and platforms to try to achieve the real-time tracking of shipments and to improve the knowledge also about the national freight flows and its nature. So this is an objective to improve the infrastructure planning in our country, and also with this data sharing, interoperability, and simplification of processes. We are working also in the defining of a governance model for the platform and the interoperability between them, and to define and implement security of this solution with to guarantee confidentiality and the security of the data exchange and the data use and the data sovereignty. We comply, we think SIMPLE comply with all the leading principles of FEDeRATED and from the DTLF also. We are going to highlight this, the follow. You have there in the image the leading principles that are going to be highlighted in our demo. I am not going to give more time in this because I think we must improve agenda. Compliance, and of course we are working in the semantic model that has been explained this morning. Here you have more or less the flower model concepts and the data that we are trying to take the same language to the three modes, no? And now in the back, okay, yes, no, okay, one less. And then, okay, I am going to show you the demo, and the demo is about the transport order. So we are trying to connect with SIMPLE an external platform, which is a Spanish platform, which is called WebTrans. I would like to thank you them for the effort. So the consignor is going to register a transport order in the WebTrans system, and then the SIMPLE platform and WebTrans through an API are going to check and to send the minimum data, and the Simple is going to assign a shipment ID, which is an important issue that we are defining. That is then the need to identify each shipment with a number, because there is no any identification common for the three sectors. And then in another moment, stakeholders could check this event and the data associated, so they can request to the WebTrans the endpoint and the complete data set, and this will be recovered by Simple and show in the graphical user interface of Simple or in the systems of the stakeholders. And now I would like to check if my colleagues in Madrid are prepared to the demo. So Herman, are you there? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, good morning. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you if you can share your screen.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. Great.
Okay. So this is the login for the Simple platform. Okay, as you can see, we have the common user and password, and also we are connected to Clave, or we are working on a connection to Clave, that is the Spanish identity provider. Okay, we have two-factor authentication in place. Okay, let's try it again because we took too long. And I have to enter a code. So in my mobile phone, 2 and 5, we are using currently Google Authenticator, but we can use also some other platform. Okay. As Jaime was explaining before, we are working with WebTrans, that it's sending us a notification of the transport orders registered by the consignor for some of the entities working on the platforms. Okay, here we have these 3 shipments. How Simple works is that for each of the events that are coming to, or that are being registered in the platform, if we don't have, if they don't have a shipment assigned, we will create a new shipment with that event as part of that shipment. Okay, here we have these 3. We can check for example, for this one, we can check that we have this transport order event registered. Now, what it's trying to preserve the data sovereignty leading principle, we are just getting notified of what has happened, but the minimal information, when did it happen, who is involved, and how, and also we have information in that payload to enough information to retrieve all the details that are already registered in the WebTrans platform. So now here, when we click on get the details, that it's this icon here, we are actually going back and sending a request to WebTrans and retrieving all the details about this shipment. So we have more information about the goods that are being transferred, and also about the documents that are registered in their platform. Okay, so basically this is the test that we wanted to show. And we also have 2 additional components in place. One is the audit log. It's a component to allow the system to keep track of the changes in the data that we are handling. Okay, so we can know who has made the change. In this case, we have created an entity, and we also have here created an event sent by WebTrans, and we have an additional component, all this exchange of events. It's being recorded in our blockchain network based on Hyperledger. Here you can see we can go to check the transactions. Okay, so it's just to also align with trying to provide trust and to our community of users. Okay, so basically that was what we wanted to show you about Simple, and now we're open to answer any questions you may have.
Yes, so thank you, Germán. Only final words. Another more time, thank you to WebTrans for the effort, and I think we have shown the possibility of interconnection between platforms, the interoperability, and the data sovereignty. And I think this is about the data spaces, digitalization, and seamless data sharing. But that are the values that this morning has shown us the Commission and our coordinator, Roland. And I think that this is the new paradigm, which is the trusted collaborative logistic. So thank you very much. There is my email there. So if you want any more thing, you can write me.
Thank you very much. There are no questions posted yet, but I have one because I'm really interested to understand you're involved in tracker operator, you're knowing shippers that may be interested. What is the response on your area, at least on this one? How much interest there is for those people to share their data if they see the value or they're afraid about the competition?
I think that all people, I think in Spain in general, people are expecting results of Simple, you know, and I think that there is the two ideas at the same time, you know, because we are changing culture. Perhaps the people knows that they must share data and they must use this type of platform, because there are some platforms like WebTrans, Traillands or something like this, and they know that this is a value, but of course they are a bit afraid about the data sovereignty. But Simple has the aspect that is promoted by the administration, is promoted by Potestad del Estado, by the railway administrator of Spain, and by our Ministry of Transport. And I think that the administration, at least in Spain, keeps people more so about the data and the use that we can.
Great. Thank you. I think it's also really important in terms of public administration, stakeholder engagement, involvement, starting from them, their interest, gain an interest, to keep on board.
Yeah,
that is the other pillar we have to, you know, operators, shippers, obviously, but also the PA. So, yeah, I have here a question. What kind of blockchain type is used? Public, private, consortium?
Okay, we are in Hyperledger, and it is a private one. If Germán, I don't know, Germán, if you want to
no, it's a private one with with three main or core nodes in the different administrations.
Okay, yeah, the three main nodes are the three promoters, and perhaps the Spanish custom could be a fourth node in the future.
Yeah. So thank you very much. We will move then to the next presentation. So Alessandro, if you want to join us. So we are to the fourth demo, and it's going to be just a second. You can start introducing yourself if you like.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. I'm Alessandro Perozzo from Codognotto, and I work in IT department. And today I will try to show you what is the situation about our lab, what we have just put in place and our operative operative department are using for daily in your works, and go on. Okay, at the beginning, the most important thing is try to understand where Codognoto was at the beginning of the project. Okay, we started from a monolithic platform, okay, where we have all processes and all application put in one place without any kind of possibility to federate some data from externally application or for some other internally application and something else. And this type of concept, this type of architecture, there was too much complexity to manage and to create a sort of standard for our business. Okay, for this reason, Codognoto needs to change the main IT architecture to try to find and to try to manage 4 main pillars. Faster implementation, because the business go daily so fast, and the IT department need to implement faster the business requirement and the business needs. To better adaptability the collaboration platform, because right now till today it's not possible to think an application and a platform without any type of possibility to open in a collaboration way. Okay, to simplify the process and to standardize it, because this is the very pillar that our business needs, and increase automation and federation between internal platform again, but the most important thing, to federate data and to federate process to external stakeholders or external actors. Okay, and what Codognoto started? At the beginning, we started to thinking about a new concept of architecture in IT department. Okay, about a new type of architecture, like a sort of microservices structure, focuses on API gateway, and in the main part in a new data lake structure, because we want to collect all information needed in a data lake. Information and data that we can add structured and unstructured data is not important by internal application, by external partner, for example, our IoT device that was installed in our fleet, in our boxes, or the information that we receive from some other partners. And it's necessary to put and collect this data all together in a data lake structure. And inside data lake structure, we need to collect and to re-elaborate the data by some new technologies like machine learning or something else, and to share this data by internal application and also by external stakeholders again. At the moment, we are complete more or less the 40% of this type of implementation, and we are right about in roadmap with the project planification that we can have. This is the new architecture that we are implementing in this project. Okay, in the center of the figure, you can find the new transport management system that Codognoto are building. Okay, but this thinking in a different way, because again, we can start from a monolithic application like a transport management system, and right now in the new concept, the transport management system is the platform that we can use only for operative department, for operative people. And we want to manage in the best way this type of operation. But all around the new TMS solution, it's necessary to have a lot of microservices, a lot of some other platform, a lot of some other collaboration. And it's necessary to share this data and receive the data by a new layer in our architecture named Codognoto Azure API Gateway. Okay, by this new layer, we are able to collect and share all information. And all are about our TMS solution. We have built some new application, for example, an order management application and a golden record application that we are able to show in the next slide. Okay, we are build a data lake application. we are built an own app, we are integrate our IoT device, we are integrate our ERP system and divide and separate all information that every application need to manage in the best way. And every application must share the data with some other. This is the new architecture and the new concept that we are thinking at the beginning. Okay. And at the same time, we're starting to design a new data lake schema. Okay. The new concept that we are implement, starting from collect all necessary data from internal and external needs. Okay. And use the new concept like a machine learning again and federate standard semantics. Okay. In the picture that you can show in the slide, we're starting to collect information from internal application like ERP, like TMS solution, like document management system, and from some external data, IoT device, external partner, and something else, and collect all in what platform named data lake. Okay. In the next picture, you're able to find the process that we are built. Okay. At the beginning, we implement by Azure Data Lake an extraction layer that we collect all data from all applications and all external partners. It's not necessary to have a structured data or some relation with the data. We collect all data in one big container named Azure Data Lake. In the second phase, we load the data by a data factory, and by Azure Synapse, we are able to transform the data, to aggregate the data, to put the data together and share this data with the third party. In the main, by business intelligence tools, for example, but not only for business intelligence tools. We are able to share this data by API gateway again. We are able to share the data by our internal application. And right now, our internal application starting to use the data from Data Lake.
Yo no estaba hoy pendiente. ¿Has visto tú?
Buenas, sí, estaba viendo la que quería quitar el audio. Estaba aquí escuchando en italiano por detrás.
Okay. This is a picture that represents the transformation data from Data Lake Synapse. After we can show it in production, and we can show how it works. Okay. And another important topic regarding the semantic model. We are working to strictly relation our data lake to federated semantic model, because the most important things again is the flower architecture that in federated we have built, and it's important that our data lake is strictly related with this concept and with this model, because again, it's necessary to create a standard of collaboration layer that everybody know and everybody speak the same languages. Okay. And now I move in the demo. Okay, I'm starting from the Synapse. Sorry, I need to share my screen. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. At the beginning, again, we collect all data in some different ways. Okay, it's not important what is the source of the data. Okay, we can collect all data that's necessary from our DMS solution, from our existing data warehouse solution, from our, I don't know, from our ERP solution, TMS solution, IoT device solution, okay? We have integrated all information in one place in Azure Data Lake, okay, with some information and structural information, with the name, with the original data model that we can have in every application. Structure or not structure is not important. And after this, we are working in an integration layer, and for every integration layer, we are build the transformation of data. Okay. Step by step, the system starting to learn the data that we can put in place, because some data is just structured in the right way, because it's not necessary to manage any sort of machine learning or something else. But in some cases, the data are structurable, and it's necessary to starting to learn the system to understand what the data we are achieving, we are collecting, and what is the information that the people needs. Okay. This is our backend platform that we are implementing, and right now, more or less, we have achieved the first goal, and we use this type of data, okay, for achieve some goal, for example. Okay, this is a real case use of data lake platform. Okay, we have more or less the number of transport order. Okay, I go in details. Okay, and with this type of concept, we are able to show what is the main flow that the system today are using. That's our business today are using. For example, IT and IT flow, and I don't know, IT to Great Britain show. But the most important thing is this not in a simply overview the data from, I don't know, the first loading point and the last loading point. The data lake collect all information about a sales order, about transport order, and put all together, and with the machine learning understand what is the order that you can put in the same leg for manage, for example, the round trip information, or for manage for complete the cargo, or again, we use a specific transport order for a triangulation, okay? But for example, this transport order is Italy to Italy because we move the trucks from one point to another, okay? But this is not an order inside Italy to Italy leg. This is an order inside Italy to Great Britain leg, because the system understands that this order is a part of a big transport, a big trip that we are using for manage, for move the truck, for example, from Italy to Great Britain or something else, or to move the boxes from Italy to Great Britain by first mile by road, the main transport by rail or by vessel, and the last mile by road again. Okay, this is one of the first goals that we are able to achieve, and in the same case, we are able to have another additional representation. Okay, we are able to see what is the situation of our transport order by loading and unloading point. What is the balance from loading and unloading point from a specific country, from a specific leg again? Okay, with data lake, we are able to collect all information about TMS again, about the device again, and collect all information, we elaborate it, and we are able to achieve this type of goal. And come back into the slide. Okay. Okay, and the second step is our API gateway, okay, to federation data with some external stakeholder, with some external partner, okay. Again, Codognotto developed a new Azure API gateway, okay, to try to achieve two main goals at the beginning, okay. Federate existing data with new internal services and platform, as the example that I showed to you before, and we are able to show to you in the next demo, and the main important thing, federate the data with some external actor, okay, like customer, like carrier, like sub-carrier, and something like that. Today, we are using in a pilot our API gateway with the two customer and 10 supplier, more or less, and we are collaborate by API gateway to federate and to share the data one with each other. This is some information about the structure of API gateway that we are implementing. Okay, we have a SQL Server database, some web server with Internet Information Service running in .NET application. And this is exposed by APIs, and we use API Manager in Azure and API Gateway to provide a public access to API over by the internet. Okay. A little representation about our API gateway. Yeah, I'm running away. Okay. Sorry. Okay, this is our API gateway platform. Okay, and we are able to manage some methods, some API, for example, transport order API, dispatch route API, average cost, the timetable of the train and the vessel that Codognoto use. Okay, and we are able to use our API gateway to manage some code. For saving time, I just prepare an example. Okay, and this is an example of the result that we have used. This can achieve by call API gateway. We have all information about the order, for example, okay, from starting point, delivery point, requirement of the customer. For example, we want to have CO2 consumption reduced. We want to have a mandatory data unload. We want to have reduce the cost on transport and something else. And with data are all available in our API gateway, in our structure that we are able to expose by API gateway again. And come back again in the slide. Okay. Okay, and a real use case demo. Okay, today the data lake, I show you the structure of the data lake. I show you a real use in business intelligence application. I show you a real use in API application, but we use this application, this data lake, also in a real application that our operative department use in your daily operation. Move again. Sorry if I jump. Okay, this is our golden record. Golden record means we have a unique overview of our business partner that Codognoto works together. Okay, it's not important if it's a customer, it's a supplier, it's a carrier. Okay, it's a unique overview. Okay, and inside we have all information that our operative department needs to manage their daily work. For example, they are able to find information about the leg that this customer works. They are able to find information about the invoicing. They are able to find information about third-party information. For example, we work for example, a lot with some freight exchange, and we are able to collect all data, okay, and represent the data in the same application in one single view of the customer. I don't know, the internet connection doesn't work. Why? Yeah. Okay, that is not important. Let's come back into the slide. Okay, this is an example of the application that we are using. Okay, and all data represented in one place, collected again from data lake. Okay. And I go to close the intervention. Okay. What are the goals that we are achieving right now? Okay, we have achieved the main goal regarding backend transformation, the component-based approach, the SOA application, the API gateway, and something else. The front-end transformation, because our people right now are using some new application inside Codognoto platform. This is the main part that we are building in the new architecture that I showed you before. The new analytic transformation, like data lake, data warehouse, and business intelligence, and the API gateway pilot. Okay, and all of these platforms are strategic initiative based in to build the new TMS solution that we are working on. And what are the next steps? The next step is complete the data lake structure and move to a new concept of lakehouse. Lakehouse meaning we want to put in one place structured information needed for business intelligence, for example, and unstructured information using for machine learning to try to collect an additional data and additional information for the business. Increase API gateway structure, and also federated data with external stakeholder and other federated lab is possible. Thank you very much. If you have any question, this is my email address, and you can contact me with no problem to speak together about it.
So, I will not pose question because I know the answer. No, but okay. Also, in the sake of the time that we are running out of, so there are no questions also for people. It's for me in any case interesting because we are completing puzzle of you know, the pieces of with different labs, looking at internally our company, a big company, let's say, is dealing with internal data to make himself open inside for the different stakeholders from the business level, business angels on, and operational level, but with the principles of federated or BTLF address pieces to be open to the rest of the world, client and supplier. That is really, you know, the basics, so we are complete. So thank you very much. I kick you away. Sorry to be rude.
Not a problem.
Bob, it's your turn.
I will just a second. Just a second. Using the brush here.
Put the mic. Yes, thank you. So my name is Wout Hoffman. I'm from TNO, but on behalf of the Ministry of Infrastructure and Water, is it water or water management? Water management. I will present the e-government logistics lab and what we did there in the FD support part. So looking at the FD regulation, as Simon already explained this morning, it's the authorities that need to accept documents in a digital way. So they have to accept freight information electronically. And that's currently only at physical inspection. That's the only way they can access it. And this will give, hopefully, a reduction of document production cost by business. What we have in the demonstrator for the FD support is that we will show that government can make use of data that is already shared by business. So they can piggyback on data that business already uses for their purposes. And this data provides access to source data, to additional source data. And it's all about transport orders, itinerary data, low discharge events, fire points, as they are called when they cross a border. So that's to do with how to distribute data to different member states. And the core of this is, of course, the semantic model that we have developed. And what we will try to do is to integrate with whatever solutions there are used by business. So it's a transport management system, it's an onboard unit system, a platform, ECMR provider, large visibility platforms, whatever you have. And we will offer standard interfaces, and the standard interfaces are supported by what we mention a node, a basic data sharing infrastructure node. So this is the setup and this is a bit of the technical part. So what we did is we developed such a node, which is in the middle. And the node consists of the technical layer. We use a peer-to-peer blockchain technology over there called CODA. So CODA nodes share data with each other. CODA nodes construct the network. So when you install it, you log on to the network and you are able to share data with all others that have a node installed. So that's the technical data distribution. And on top of that, we've constructed the GraphDB as a triple store, which implements all the semantic data that is shared. So the semantic layer has all the semantic data and it's shared via CODA to other nodes. And in this particular case, to the Dutch authority and to the Belgian authority as a setup. It can also be used to share data with other nodes in the private domain. So other FD provider nodes, what have you. Let's see if it works. Yes. So what we have in the example is this type of simple scenario. It's a truck from its home base going to a warehouse in Belgium, picking up cargo, delivering it to to a first store in Belgium, crossing the border, and to the second store, dropping off the rest of its cargo in the Netherlands. And we have used some sample data of trip data of a carrier called Hessing to demonstrate how it would work. I will show that later on. This is sort of the flow that you have. What you see here on the left side is the TMS and the onboard unit that are already used to share data. So it's a truck driver that gets his orders, his itinerary, truck driver that reports of what he's done, load in a warehouse, discharge in store 1, discharge in store 2. And in the meantime, the TMS shares the data with the BDI node of the carrier, and that's copied to the BDI node of the Belgian authority and the Dutch authority. And then at a later stage, whenever something is happening on the side of the Dutch authority, he can ask for the data that's in the TMS. So he can ask for the transport data that's provided by the link in the events. I will show some screen dumps. So this is how we constructed the user interface of an authority. You see the logo of the Dutch authority. It's called the CMR data viewer. It better would be in this context to have an FT data viewer, because officially you're not interested in the ECMR, but in the Belgium case, they want to have an ECMR data viewer. So that's why it's called this way. So you can log on. It's linked to an identity provider set up according to the iShare protocols. Then you can request, you can enter a license plate. You can request for data. You receive the trip data. You can show the list of shipments in the truck. And then you can get the ECMR data per shipment, what happened, and the details in the end. So this is how you query your national node and get data from the system of the carrier. Now some examples. This is the data we received. Nobody can read it, of course. So, but this is in OTM. This is how it looks like in the semantic model. So what happens is that there are lots of events created, and these events, they have a start, and the date is expected. This is how we have defined it in the model. So it's an expected, it starts, it has the timestamp over here. It refers to a digital twin, refers to the infrastructure, and has some other named individual. So all these events are generated from the OTM that we take. So what we could also do is take the examples of the APSIS data, read it into the system, and then convert it into the model. Now, this is how the output will look like. So nobody can read it again. So you see a different structure compared to the input. Just lists of events. Now, on the technical side, you have the APIs. So now we go into the Corda part. You have the APIs, so like post events, get information on a digital twin, and so on and so on. So when you post an event, it's like this. So you have the data over here in the box. That's the RDF data, and the RDF data is shared as a string. So Corda, the technical layer, just shares blocks of data, of semantic data to others. And there's a distribution rule over here to say that the countries involved in this example, it should be the Netherlands and Belgium, but it mentions Netherlands and Italy. Maybe that's for Andrea, he's Italian. So and in the end, what you get is this report. So a confirmation that the transaction is submitted to another node, and that data is recorded both on the ledger as submitted, and it's recorded in GraphDB. So this is the more technical stuff. So this is now what we're looking at. So we're trying to set up a network of nodes that are interconnected with each other, and they all fully implement the semantic model. So the semantic model is in the network. And these nodes are, as I explained. And on this node, there are what we call these endpoints. And on these endpoints, you can formulate whatever you want. So the nodes all talk the semantic language. They can interface, like I showed, to existing standards and structures, like the OpenTrip model, for instance, the EPCAs or whatever. And the output can also be in that format. So on top of this, you can build all types of user interfaces. This is the one we built for Dutch Customs. This is the one we built for road accidents. So you can have as many as you would like to have. We have seen all these different cases over here. So what we in the end are going to offer is a way by which you can formulate how you will use this infrastructure. So you configure it yourself by formulating your event structures. This is the more generic part for the FT. What we are now in the phase of, Lasse showed the hills, climbing the hills and going into the, going lower. So we're now on the first top of the first hill. What we're looking for and what we are actively seeking is contact with carriers, ECMR providers, onboard unit platforms, whatever, that would like to participate. That's on the one hand. And on the other hand, we're mobilizing the authority, the relevant agencies that have to use the data, that need to have access to the data. So this is the stage where we're in. Thank you.
So from my side again, I'm getting more and more enthusiastic because I like it that you started with the sentence. Authority had to extract info electronically. Statement. Yes. But then how to engage? It's nice to see that it's not only to say I move paper to data, but I create also the tool to use it, and you can design the way you want to use it, and that is amazing because that is interaction. It's not only to say it's a one-to-one, but it's something more. So from data, you move to information, I would say, from a different semantic approach. And that is really the way to evolve also the other stakeholders. So I think it's really emblematic what you show right now. So just my personal enthusiasm and comment, it's really a good point. I don't see question on the pool. Yeah, there is one. Besides to address the information, obviously the question to the DG officer, obviously. But so one question is, this is very similar to one app for authority we have seen before in previous conference call.
Well, Roland says no, but
similar.
I think it's similar. One app is just one interface running on a particular node, offering a certain viewpoint of the data. So we developed another viewpoint, and it's up to an end user to define its own viewpoint. So whether the one of us best fits or the one app, I cannot judge. That's up to the authorities that need to use it. That's my opinion. But
in general, there is an enormous amount of possibilities to put up an API and a GUI and call it whatever name you would like to call it, as long as it serves as an AC/DC in order to do the data transformation. Yeah, that is one thing. The other thing is, and that is also where FEDeRATED is about, is to provide the infrastructure to do the data dissemination. And that's actually the difficult part of the FEDeRATED project, because you have to get the data from one place to the other. And one app or an API or a GUI is only the kind of access in order to get started. And we want to enable and empower all the participants not to only get started,
but also to exchange data. And that is the difference. So it's good to have one app, but it's only the starting point.
I think it's important to go back to your first slide about the cartoons of the space. To summarize, maybe the people will go back to your presentation to understand a bit better the icons you were using, to get back where we are starting from and where we want to move to. So I think this lecture on the lab will be useful to be analyzed based on that presentation or vice versa. Then we can have a really a cognitive approach, a loop to understand every aspect, but that's one point. Then another question is, could you tell a little bit more on event structure?
Yes, I can. So what we see in the outside world, there are lots of definitions for event structures. We took one called load, unload. I know of many different others used in other areas. So what we did is we have basic event structures integrating or linking association, creating association between any two digital twins. So, or between a digital twin and a location. So we will have an event structure that says the truck has arrived at a location. So that's the association that's created. The second event will be the container is loaded on the truck. So we all have these basic structures and we can combine them in any way we want. We can combine them in load, unload, pick up, drop off, fire points, whatever you want. So I hope this answers the question.
I hope so. We have another one. Unless I see that. Okay, can you please elaborate more on the semantic model and how it relates to future EFTI data model under the regulation? Will we need to adopt such a data model? I don't know if you or even.
Yeah, I can answer that question. So the EFTI data set, or data, you could call it data set or data model, that's a view on the semantic model. So it's a combination of what you could call concepts, properties, whatever, how it's defined in the semantic model. And so you could create the FD data model view on the semantic model. And that's it. And then what we could do is we could generate APIs with JSON or XML that support this FD data view if needed, or we could say it's all in triples. So it's a semantic data. Whatever is required, we can provide. We are currently working on what we call the semantic adapter. So to come from the JSON or XML API type of stuff to the semantic data and vice versa. That's the famous round trip that Henk always mentioned in his talks for DTLF. So these are things that are under development. I hope this answered the questions also.
Then we have another one, how to combine event structure related to one transaction, order for shipment to, for example.
Also a good question again, Herman. So this shipment or transaction, it's a combination of events where the user defines a single event. So he says, I have my transaction, and in this transaction, it's about the container, it's about the truck, it's about the place of loading, place of discharge. For him, it's one event. For us, it's multiple events to share the data semantically. But he shouldn't be cared, the one that defines this structure. He shouldn't see it. He just submits his order, and the order is broken down into semantic data. And at the receiving side, you can reconfigure it the way you want. So the infrastructure takes care of all the semantics and transforms it in the meantime between the input and the output.
I think a friend of you or a fan of you is putting another question on the first two labs, so CAS and FID and RAID, made me think of, of pilot. We didn't core differently from the end user perspective. I guess there is a difference somewhere, but where?
The question looks simple, but it's quite difficult. Yeah, so these first two living labs, the CAS one is about customs, border crossing, and that's customs involved. Core was about border crossing. The only thing what's here is in core, we looked at the perspective from customs. So from Dutch customs, getting data of what they call the data pipeline. And the CAS one is more about the flow of the goods, reporting to customs, Norwegian, Finnish, and then they take action and so on. So it's more from the flow perspective versus the single perspective of a customs authority that we had in core. What was the second living lab? No, I forgot.
RDF.
The rail track. That's basically the same. So it's looking at the flow of a wagon, following the wagon, where in core we want to look at the data from the customs perspective. So these are all the different views that you can have on the data. You can follow the goods, or you can look at what happens in your territory crossing borders. And that can all be combined. Yep.
Okay. Actually, before I had a request from Rudy to intervene on just before we're going on with the question. Rudy, you wanna say something? I saw that you were posting on the
we should not create confusion. I think that the one-up for authorities will be completely aligned with the solution that Wout is presenting from the perspective of the BDI architecture. The objective of WADAP is a little bit different. It's we are sitting together with the authorities also to define what is going to be the end user interface. And we have something special because we are going to try and understand how the ontology that we are the federated ontology is interoperable with existing standards like the one of WCO and UNC-FACT. So the two fit very, very well together. Okay, we have some work to do, but that's also what Roland proposed in the beginning. We have two phases, and now in the second phase, we need to go and go an additional month. But don't consider it that we have a left and a right solution here. We only have one straightforward.
Thank you. Then, sorry if I move really quickly, I have also in the chat the request to intervene to the DG officer concerning EFID, Leah Pottage. Sorry if maybe the pronunciation is not properly. If you want to add something, if you hear us.
Yes, I can hear you, and good afternoon. No, I think definitely. I mean, we're very interested from the perspective of the European Commission, obviously, as we will need to set up the implementation specifications for the FT regulation, both as regards the future so-called data model, as well as the IT systems to be used both by the operators and by the authorities. So in that sense, what is being piloted in FEDERATED would be of much interest to us. And certainly we have been looking forward to hear where the pilot is going, and we will invite the consortium to present, or the lab developers to present us in more detail the proposed solution and how we can take that into account. So thank you. I think that will require definitely more detailed discussion to understand that. Thank you.
Super, great. So thank you very much also for your contribution. Then we have a last some other question. Just a second to share the screen so we can see it's okay. So we are. So how will we ensure sufficient competition for trader lines?
This is not about competition with existing platforms. We try to support, that's what Rula told. We have to use existing investments and have to integrate with them. So what we already did for the customs application that I showed briefly, we integrated TradeLens data into their dashboard. So it's just another platform that we seek integration with. And we will continue to do this and by providing also them the tools and the means to do it. So no competition, just using what there is.
Good. I think the other two comments of Rudy, if that Rudy is that Rudy, were already described. So I think we complete also the question and answer on this session. So thank you very much, both. And we will move to the last.
Thank you. While you're setting that up, I'm the last one. So
yeah,
there's a reward for all of you after this.
Last but not. And we have still over 70, 75 people attending on chat. So really great endurance.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. We reach up to 100. So it's yeah.
So okay, thank you very much. Yeah. So I'll give you an update on what's going on with the Internet Logistics Living Lab. And let me dive into it straight away, if I can find a mouse to do this. Yes, we are. So what I'll do is first explain what exactly is that so-called Internet Logistics. I then need to talk about one record, which is what actually underpins the Internet Logistics. I have two short demos I want to show you, and then some lessons learned. So first, what is it? The Internet Logistics actually is a growing number of companies that are exchanging data via a common standard, which is exactly what we're trying to do with FEDeRATED, which is to be able to connect platforms together so we can share the data that is needed. What you're seeing here is something like 90 companies around the world are participating. We had a comment earlier that IATA is a global organization. And the reason is, of course, that air transport is not limited to Europe. In fact, freight within Europe by air is very limited. It's too short. We use other means of transport for that. But just to zoom into Europe, what you can see is even within Europe, there's a lot of companies participating in this project and that are actually sharing data using the one record standard. And what you get is essentially what you would expect to see from global transport, which is these sort of clouds of companies, these networks of companies that exchange data over the various continents. And in this project, and these are real companies, these are real implementations, what we see is certain specialities. For example, in the EU, a lot of the work we do is focused on the actual transport part, multimodal transport, including road transport as well. We have some maritime connections. Whereas if you look at India, most of the people that are there in this project are actually solution providers. And this answers the question that came up earlier, I think it was in relation to the Finnish project, when they stated, we don't have our own one record server yet. Well, that's perfectly normal because not everybody needs their own server. It's just like your websites. You don't run your own website. Your website is on someone else's server. And that is the approach that we see here as well, where we share data sharing infrastructure. So what does it actually mean then? Then how do you do that? So let me explain one record in a single slide. One record actually is very simple to explain. And in a large extent, I think it explains FEDeRATED as well. It is just the World Wide Web with a semantic model of data. It's all it is. And anybody that works in this domain says, oh, you mean semantic web? Yes, that's exactly what I mean. This is the semantic web. What you see, the bottom there is a typical URL. A URL, in this case, it's to get company information. And what you'll see in a moment in the demo, it says, this is how we access data. Now, we call this APIs, but the reality is we use them every day when we browse the web. You put in a URL, you get something back, a page. Well, what you get back here is data. It's just the same. If I drill down one step further, what you'll see is that the technology is exactly the same as the web. There's nothing new about it, which answers an earlier question about what technologies we use, what standards. URLs, HTTP, there's an S in the HTTP, which refers to security, and then data formats. In this case, we use a lot JSON LD. JSON is a common data standard, and LD is an extension referring to linked data, but it's JSON. And it can be translated into any other dialect of RDF, including triple turtle language. So this is it. This is one record. Now, just to point out why we added the semantic model is if you look at the World Wide Web as it is today, as you use it, as we all use it, is that it's an interface between humans and machines. You go to a web page, you do what you want to do, and you take in the information as a person. One record is exactly the same, except the human hand is replaced by another robot. It's machines querying machines. What you get is networks of machines browsing through that network to find information. And so if you're looking at freight transport, you need a lot of information. You need, where does the freight come from? Who manufactured it? How much is the customer paying for this? What are the tax implications? What's the status? Is there a problem along the road? Has this been loaded? Has it been unloaded? Have the horses been fed while they're being transported? Things like that. These are all the sort of information you need, and it's the machines that are doing this interaction, so that you as an end user get what you need. So I'm going to show two demos. One is, these are both actually taken from a hackathon we organized. There's 100 companies I showed you earlier. They all have live implementations, but they're all busy getting ready for Black Friday, for Christmas. This is the busiest time of year for air freight operators. So I'm going to use these demos that were actually made as part of our hackathon. We did them every year. There's about 40 demos that we have in total. So I'm going to show two. And the first one here, I'm going to attempt to see if that works. It should work because we tested it. Oh, it's working.
Well, never said.
It's good. It's good. It's going.
Wait. It's not on the screen.
Isn't it?
Show it.
Too easy.
What? It's to be.
It's on the screen.
We start with the video.
Yes, you can click the button if you want. No, you can go ahead.
Radio, right?
Yes, I'm ready.
Welcome to the demo video
except I didn't want the
French
sound.
team.
If you can just cut the sound.
Our team.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas Moreau, who you see on the screen here, is the guy presenting. He does a great job, but he takes more time than I have. So I'm going to explain it faster than him. And in fact, at home, I put it on double speed, but that's okay. So these people here, they have the one-track app. Fortunately, they put in the word track. Otherwise, it's one app, and then we have confusion. So the one-track app here is essentially doing the project that the Swedish colleagues were talking about earlier, which is when you combine maritime transport with another mode of transport with the DCSA. So DCSA was part of this project as well. They put their data available to us, and they created this app then to track. You'll see that in a second. They did some IoT as well, very similar, and then added some nice features for us. So I'm just going to sort of skip ahead to what to build. A simple architecture. I need to tell you that they did all of this in 24 hours. That's the whole trick with a hackathon. You start on Friday evening and you're done by Sunday morning. They use the OneRecord API with the OneRecord server, which they built during the weekend. And then they connected to a DCSA server, and they managed to get all of the data they needed for this combined transport. And so if you look at the left here, you can see what the actual supply chain was that they simulated, because it's a simulation using data from these simulation servers. And so it's a transport from Shanghai to Rotterdam, and then via another transport, road transport to Mouscron in Belgium. And then at some point, there's an e-commerce action as well, where somebody buys whatever it was, and it goes then from Brussels to Barcelona, where it gets delivered. What you're seeing on the right here is a recording of the app. So this is a real app that they built. They have the code available if we want it. And what you see is that they scan the box, they scan a 2D barcode, QR code, and it gives them access to all of the information that is related to this particular shipment. And you can see them scrolling here through the process of the loading and the unloading at the various points in the transport, which are on the left. Right now, they were looking at what's inside that box. I believe it's a computer. And so you can see as they're scrolling through this, they're picking up all of these events. Now, I saw some of the questions earlier on. This is really just the icing on the cake. That's not what FEDeRATED is about. FEDeRATED is getting to the data, and then you do something nice with it. What you see here is what you can do with it. And in fact, here, what you see here is an IoT on temperature control of the goods as well. So it's also tracking that. A fully fledged app is just an example of what you do when you get the data. And that's often the issue, but that's, of course, we have solved with the other thing. I'm going to stay on this side, so we don't have to keep switching. So I'm just going to go back to, in fact, I'll search it because rather than, so this is DevPost. Actually, it's the system we use for our hackathons. I think it's called One Record, which would make a lot of sense if I could type it. Wrong keyboard. One Record. My keyboard. Right, will it find it? DevPost, does it find it? No, it doesn't find it. You know what? We're going to go back to the. So the next demo was this was a French team, by the way, with Air France and some other people. And the next project is from a German team that involved Lufthansa. This is the one, yes, and we can click on that. Lufthansa and our colleagues from the research institute there. Fraunhofer is the one I'm thinking about. No, this one we're not going to watch. So
how come?
No, I'm not going to watch this one.
Oh, sorry.
I'm going to go down the page.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, I want to stay there.
Oh, this?
Yeah, I want to stay there. But it's not the video I want to show.
Ah, okay.
So if I go to the bottom of the page, they have a nice video too. You can look at it if you want. It has a German accent rather than a French accent. So, but they put a nice system together. And the reason I show this particular demo, there's a disclaimer, so I will just consent to that, is that it shows in great detail how data is actually shared. And so we have this concept of the URL or the URI. You see a couple of them on the left here. I think I'll hide that. You need that. You see a couple of URLs here, and that's the basis of all the information we want. So what happens when you click on the URL? Now, this is a URL for a piece of cargo. And so we want to know what actually this is referring to. If I click on it, it actually displays in a nice way the raw data that comes back in JSON LD. Okay, so they've just made a browser. The reality is that it's just one of those data dumps that we've seen a few of today. But here they've put some structure in it. And what you see is that you have the piece, and there's an item inside that piece, an item, a product. There's some transport movements, as you would expect. And then there's some talk about the shipment itself. We can start with the piece, just to see what it is, right? Because we don't know. So we're going to click on that. And what you now begin to see here is that we're not getting the data from one server. The whole thing started with, on the top, Fraunhofer has a server, which has this data. But if I want to know what's inside here, actually, it refers to Apple. So it's getting data from Apple directly, but you don't see that. It's all part of this response. And so if we were to look in the actual thing, I would see that the product, oh, it's an iPad Pro. Great, fine, that's nice. And then, but we could also look at the transport movement. Let me just close these, right? So what's the transport movement? Let's start with the second one first. The order is not in the order you would expect to see. That's how these files work. So the first transport movement we're looking at is a transport from one location to another, as you would expect. And incidentally, now the data comes from Lufthansa. So we're not making separate API calls and then combine the information. It's all embedded in this single file. That's what we refer to as linked data. And that's also directly connected to these semantic models. So in this case, quickly, it's from SFO, which is San Francisco, but for those that know it. It goes to Frankfurt, which is Frankfurt for those that know it. And then transport means, well, I guess it's going to be an airplane. It is indeed, it's a Boeing 777 with these particular registration details. You can go on like this. In fact, I'll go one more further. Just one, because there's an interesting feature about the other transport movement, which is from the airport to a location in Germany called Frankfurt. So it's actually a transport from the airport to a place in Frankfurt. Now, what's interesting is that if you look at the transport means here, it's a truck, as you would expect. What's even more interesting that this truck has an IoT device. It says so here, look, IoT device. And that comes again from a different server. So this approach, all these different pieces of data are all combined into this linked data. And we can really start browsing around the web to find out exactly what is what. So, okay, so I'll go to the IoT device. And what I get, actually, I end up with a map. So this is showing where that truck is at that point in time. And in the end, all of that, if we go right back to the beginning, it all started with a single link to a piece of freight that I happen to have in my hand. And that's the whole point of data sharing. That's the whole point of linked data, is that once you have one piece, you can browse your way around to the entire transport that has been done. This is the demo I wanted to show. I believe I have one more slide. 4 minutes as well. Perfect. That's it. Lessons learned. First one, we all say it, but we really have to use standards. And why do I say that? Well, we developed the standard while we were doing this, and this was bad news, because you can't really implement things while they're being developed. When the standard moves, you have a real problem. And so it wasn't until our standard became more stable that these dots on the map started exploding from 510 to 20, 50, 100. By the time this project is finished, I'm talking about FEDeRATED, I'm sure we'll have about 1,000 of these dots on the map, and it will grow from there. But only if these standards are stable. So you must use stable standards. The second one that explains why we can do 100, essentially 100 living labs within this living lab, is that we're not paying for it. These companies, they must see value in this, then they'll invest. So the trick about it is that unless you can demonstrate that data sharing has value, you're not going to have anything. And I think if anything, this confirms that it does. The sort of things you can do with shared data is extremely powerful and very valuable, which is why companies are willing to put the money on the table themselves and invest. You have to plan for changes, obviously, you know that. We're all early adopters. It's part of the thing. Probably one of the biggest things we have done is communication, is explain, 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 and explain again. And we explain to people that know everything, and we explain to people that know nothing. And it's this whole pipeline of education that goes on. And of course, in the process, we learn. And lastly, you have to be quite patient, because it does take a long time to go from 1 dot to 1,000 dots. But that's my story.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. We will just quickly move then to the few questions that we also gained the last one. First of all, we have a comment from Rudy. One app for authority is also an IATA, one record pilot for a goal to pull EFTI data from one record API sources. So that's, thank you. Then we have a first question. Wonderful visualization. My question is how to relationship between the events shown in one track is maintained or built in the federated network.
Let me reread that. I need to think about that while I'm reading it. My question is how the relationship between the events shown in one track is maintained or built in the federated network. Right. So these events, we're all loading and unloading events if you look carefully, or it could be a receipt of goods. So there's multiple events. These events are accessible via the API that we have behind one record. And so if you need to know, have a certain type of event, you just go directly to the API and you'll get the information back. This links to the semantic model, which defines events, and these are certain types of events. Yeah, so about the links, that's a really good one because this is linked data. To put it simply, the links are exactly as links on a web page. You create a web page, put links on it, and they stay there. They don't disappear. If you go to the Amazon website and they have links to Black Friday or something, that link is there forever, even if they take the page away. And it's the same here. When you create these structures with these links inside, they will remain forever, even when the page is finished for a long time. So in that sense, there's a strong record also of what happened, how these links are, and we go a lot further in also recording the history of the data behind the links. So these are essentially permanent features, which we will archive at some point, but that's another matter.
Thank you. Is one record also used outside air cargo sector?
A little bit, and there's nothing stopping it from being that way. What limits it to air cargo is the fact that the semantic model we developed is for air freight. If you would sit down with DCSA and say, hey, let's bring in your semantic model, then one record would do container shipping from one day to the next. You just add in the semantic model and it's ready for that. When I say a little bit is that we are actually working with tracking applications. We are working with DCSA to some extent. We're trying to create exactly those links. So yes, it's not just air freight, it goes a little bit further and we'll see who's interested to go any further with that. But I'm an aviation guy, so I'm not primarily motivated by it.
And here's a demo, a lab, so it could be applied and just like on other fields.
Absolutely, yeah.
Then Hank, does Cargo IQ fit in what you showed, at least on the air freight part?
So Cargo IQ, for those that haven't heard of it, is an organization that has defined milestones in air freight, and they track how well we perform against these milestones. So if a flight has to arrive at a certain date, at a certain time, and they're 3 hours late, then they get a bad mark for being 3 hours late. Cargo IQ tracks that entire process. They sit right next to me in my office. So firstly, they know everything that we do. We are currently looking at doing some joint pilots with them as well, in particular for tracking freight movements from a warehouse to an airplane and back again. It may not seem far, but there's lots of steps involved in that. So the answer is it fits extremely well for anyone that wants to use one record in Cargo IQ. That's right. That's the whole thing.
Okay, thank you very much. I think also the last point about Herman, I think it's completed with your previous one, or yes. In any case, okay.
And he wants to talk to me.
So. Great. So in any case, we will share, as mentioned, all the presentation that we've had today. And okay, so let's conclude. I think we were exceeding a little bit of time, so I was failing a moderator in times from the times point of view, but I'm enthusiastic. I finish, let's say, with the fireworks on my perspective, I guess, economist or project manager, I say really tangible, concrete result up to now. We were working hard, I think, from our labs, and we show only a few of our labs because we have 22, and we select 6 to give a picture of what we are doing in the project, and to give a picture of different pieces of this, I call it puzzle, not patchwork. Usually we speak of this. So a really enthusiastic picture for me. I will leave the floor, well, from my side, thank you everybody in person and online, and the speakers particularly, and the representative of the DG Move as well. And I leave the floor then to Roland, if you want to conclude. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Guido. Thank you very much, all speakers. Thank you very much, all participants, the audiences. I would really like to thank you very much, not only for participating, but also contributing. Just 2 connotations, apart from complimenting you. This is the midterm event, and one way or another during the event, we were increasingly talking about events. Actually, if you're going to talk about events, and I said for fun that I never listen to technology people, but I call them every day in order to allow me to be more informed. If we talk about technology and we talk about the galaxy, I think we have to think one thing. We are not working in the physical area, we're working in a virtual galaxy area. And in the galaxy, there is only events. Time and space are not existing there anymore, as we're doing it with our clock on the physical world. So we have to imagine, if we want to comprehend what we're dealing with, that it's all about events and not on timing. And that is quite difficult in the conceptualization of what we're doing. Some people comprehend, some others don't, but this is the starting point. It's all mixed together. It's a big space and mess, and we can distinguish ourselves as long as it's accessible. Talking about semantics in the galaxy, what Facebook and Google are doing is actually all semantics and trying to interact with the public. That is actually what they're doing, and that is actually what we perceive also. Just connecting, getting access, opening up the doors, and the open freedom. That is where Europe stands for, that's where we stand for, and in the end, please join, participate, probably in a semantic modeling group, architecture, living lab, just dig in, start connecting, and we are more than happy to engage. And in the end, FEDeRATED is a nice group. We want to enlarge, and it's big fun. Thank you for participating, and let's continue. Thanks. Bye. Yeah, done. Great. Picture?
We're still on the thing.
Oh, we're still
there. Yeah. So I will close the meeting and then let's go for lunch at least. Thank you.